which is the biggest contributor to non-tax revenue? Which GOCC?
BSP,
BSP.
Bangko Sentral, Land Bank, PAGCOR,
Yes, thank you.
and PAGCOR are examples of the ones that have the biggest revenue remittances from non-taxes.
Okay. For our tax revenues, alam ko yung dalawang biggest sources natin would be BIR and BOC. May we get the figures, sir? BIR?
475.
BIR, 3.33 trillion, 232 billion,
32, okay.
475 million.
For the customs,
Customs, 1 billion,
1.0.
1 trillion, 64 billion.
Okay, sige. And then, meron bang third tax collecting agency na worthy of mentioning?
Other offices.
The balance would be collected by the others. Maliliit lang po. Apo. So, kumusta po ang trend? What's the trend in the BIR collections as well as the BOC
Actually,
collections?
we would like to congratulate the BIR. I believe they've surpassed their targets. Or they've met their obligations.
For the year,
For the year. For the year, they
BIR
are
is,
on target.
Okay, 2024 on target.
target.
Okay.
Total revenue is on target at 1.920 trillion. So that's 92.28% of the target, 2.80 trillion. Eh, hindi pa naman nagtatapos yung year.
So overall, for 2024, total revenue collection is on target. So parang yung projection natin nung last year makakamit. BIR is on target, and I suppose BOC is on target?
Little below target.
Okay.
We surpassed the target for non-tax revenue.
They're a little bit below target, the BOC and the BIR. However, the year's not over. But then we surpassed non-tax revenue sources.
Okay.
So we are on target with the full target of 4269.
Okay, so for the year, we are on target with our projection of 4269 trillion.
So hindi natin masyado tuloy napapansin o mapapansin ang below target ni BIR and BOC because of the non-tax revenue. So what's happening, Mr. Secretary, Madam Chairperson, what has happened in 2024 which made our GOCCs parang outperform their projected output?
We increased the dividend rate from 50 to 75%.
Okay. And what would be the effect on the GOCCs, Mr. President? Kung dati pala, the old rule, 50%. So they got to retain the 50%. Now they will retain only 25% of their earnings. So what would now be the expected effect on our GOCCs?
To perform better.
They're being pushed to perform better, Mr. President.
Perform better with less.
Not with less, because that's their income. They still are able to cover their expenses.
The reason for their being provide dividends also to the national government.
Their main
Yeah.
goal
Yeah.
is really to provide dividends for the government. So now, a lot of them have already been in operation for many years. So we can expect an increase in their remittances.
Exception of a few, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
I was asking Senator Risa Ontiveros. She mentioned yesterday that we have around 250 GOCCs. How many of them are expected to be earning for the government?
Only probably 10 really
ang not.
Only about 10 out of the 250
Na-
GOCCs will give about the threshold of a billion and above. So 10 out of the 250.
No, yes, and then some of the 250 are not expected to earn from the government, not expected at all to earn for the government.
1 billion.
I'm sorry, to be corrected, instead of 10, 53 of the GOCCs will
17.
17 will give a billion and above.
Okay, thank you for that. And what would explain the BIR and the BOC failing to keep up with their targets, Madam Chairperson?
Number one,
Number one,
BSF.
the BSF.
Congress was not able to pass the tax laws on time.
Yeah, well, we weren't able to
Yeah.
pass the tax laws on time, so now we're paying. And so there's a shortfall in collections. But will we be able to meet our target?
Yes, but the BSF.
Okay, so let me now go to the President's message because the answer brought this idea to my mind. No? Page 9, last paragraph. Ang sabi po ng ating Presidente, we will also usher in key tax reforms that will revolutionize our tax system and ultimately enhance revenue, including 1, value-added tax on non-resident digital service providers. 2, excise tax on single-use plastics. 3, package 4 of the comprehensive tax reform program. 4, the rationalization of the mining fiscal regime. And number 5, the reform of the motor vehicles users charge. May we know among the 5, ilan na po ang na-achieve na? Number 1, si value-added tax on non-resident digital service providers. Okay. Okay. Thank you for that answer. So, I think these are all laws, Mr. President. So, sa atin pala ito naka-address. 4. So the President's budget message mentions 5 measures. So,
Congress can pass the remaining 4.
A message from our secretary.
Yes.
They will appreciate if we pass the remaining 4 bills that have to do with being able to generate more revenue for the government.
how much is that value-added tax on non-resident digital service providers projected to bring to government?
Roughly 80 billion in the next 4 years. So
80?
Yeah, so about 20 billion per
20
year.
billion a year. So, Mr. President, ang BIR po ay bibigyan natin ng 16.8 billion pesos. Tama po ba? And then ang Bureau of Customs, 4 billion pesos. Tama po? More or less, rounded off?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, more or less. Committee report ba itong atin?
Yes, in the
yes.
NEP BOC 5.7 billion. Pero sa committee report,
Yes.
nilagay natin 9.2 billion. We increased it because of the, di ba, yung mga incentives nila because of the surpassing their
4.0.
Oo, because of meron sa kanila na with the excess collection in 2022, I believe. Ngayon lang natin mabibigay sa kanila, di ba? Oo, kasi we needed guidelines for it.
Sa report sa akin po, 4.083 billion ang customs.
New appropriations.
Yes, and then
Oo.
ano po yung nabanggit po natin na
Hindi.
magiging 5 something?
I- Oo, kasi actually, dun sa NEP, Mr. President, 5.7 billion.
Oo.
Okay. Niretain niya ng GAB. Pero tayo, kasi meron silang request, meron silang incentive program for having surpassed their collections in target in 2022, no? 2021. Ngayon lang lumabas ito kasi the DOF, I think, asked from them certain guidelines before those incentives can be released. So yung difference ng 9.2 at 5.7, yun yung para sa mga incentives nila.
Based on law,
It's based on law, lateral attrition law passed by us.
Siguro, Mr. President, magpapaguide na lang kami sa LBRA mo saan makita yun. Because we, automatic, okay. Automatic, sige, can we mention the amount of automatic appropriations for the Bureau of Customs? Mga 1.7 billion siguro?
I'm sorry, Mr.
Automatic.
3.6 yung
Okay. There's a special provision from the DOF that rewards and incentives fund. In addition to the amounts appropriated herein, 3,609,000,000 pesos shall be used for the grant of rewards and incentives to the officials and employees of the Bureau of Customs for exceeding its fiscal year 2021 revenue target sourced from 15% of the collection of BOC in excess of its revenue targets pursuant to Section 4 of RA number 935, Attrition Act of 2005. The grant of rewards and incentives shall be subject to the provisions of the said law, its implementing rules, and release of funds shall be subject to the submission of a special budget request and other relevant budgetary requirements in accordance with applicable laws, rules, and regulations. So siguro kaya natagalan dahil may mga relevant documents pa na kailangan na certifications.
And that amount is to be handled by what agency?
The customs.
It's the commissioner who will decide the disbursements from that fund? Reward, sabi, ang pagkaintindi ko po, reward.
Rewards. That's why
Yes, so,
there's a committee that will decide on
Yes.
how it's going to be spent. But I was asking also the commissioner if kasi 2021 pa to paano ngayon yung mga wala na doon na empleyado in 2021? Are they meron bang mga employees ba makakuha dito?
are these bonuses, bale? Bonuses? Kasi ang alam ko reward is in 4 months reward, but
reward
Rewards.
for surpassing their target in
Oh.
2020.
reward, you also use the word reward. Okay, yes, I remember the law. May mga incentives tayo dyan. Okay. Yes, I remember the law. Meron tayong incentives for for both BIR and BOC, I think. So is there a similar entry for the BIR?
None yet.
Why next year next year most likely meron si BIR?
No, I don't think
None yet.
there's law ba for the incentive?
Yeah.
There is.
So, yeah.
Sige,
There's no reward yet.
But, so hindi pa nasa-surpass yung target.
Wala pa.
Oo, wala pa kasing, hindi pa nasa-surpass yung target, so wala
Yes,
pang
okay.
reward
Thank you.
na pending.
Well, Mr. President, I do not want to wash our dirty linen in public, no, pero I just want to tell the two agencies na hanggang ngayon may natatanggap pa rin tayong mga reklamo siguro. Sometimes you can say na you cannot satisfy everybody, pero sometimes meron din worrisome portion of the complaint or part of the complaint. So
Mr.
I just want to
President,
inform the two agencies na meron pa rin, just continue na lang your siguro vigilance, internal vigilance ninyo, crack down on the misbehaving members of your agencies.
We are working on it.
actually, Mr. President, that's an age-old problem, but also I'm not saying it's a lot minimized now, but what I'm saying is the effort of the BIR now, meron silang e-filing system na marami nang nag-a-avail. In fact, I think ilang file online? 90%. Yung mga personal to, personal. Okay. So the total filings now are electronic, 90% are electronically filing. Of course, if there are certain discrepancies, they can still be audited, no? But that lessens human intervention. Pero yun nga, marami pa rin, like a lot of businesses, of course, di ba? This is approach us because they still feel the I guess the pressure. Now for the Bureau of Customs, meron na yung single window. This is the first time. Okay. So now the Bureau of Customs actually has a program where they open their offices to stakeholders to be able to share their feedback with regards to how the Bureau of Customs is being run. And tsaka meron din. Wala pa.
It's significantly increased our number of complaints from previous last year, from 700 now.
Laki pa ng GOCC capital.
Complaints sa inyo?
So,
Nababawasan yung
Well, supposedly, sa kanila, out of 700 complaints in the past, ngayon na bumababa na sa 400. Baka naman takot lang sa inyo.
but yung next step from maybe other
Government agencies. So the complaints are not, were not addressed directly to them. This comes from mga action centers, yung mga 888 in Presidential Action Line 888.
So I have been informed that Customs will enjoy a substantial 580% increase in capital outlay in the 2025 budget. May we know where the CO will be spent on?
Window, ano yun?
Customs.
Yeah, no, I know for one.
Tama po ba?
from last year, 900.
Okay,
PLGF na lang.
the 900, the 2025 budget of 700, the Bureau of Customs, an increase of 893.6 million. The year-on-year increase in the PS allocation is due to the higher number of field positions, which has risen from 3,500 to 3,700 in 2025. The increase in MOOE for 2025 compared to 2024 is primarily due to the higher allocation for subscription expenses, particularly for information and communications technology, subscriptions which are necessary to maintain and ensure the stability and performance of the BOC's ICT infrastructure. The capital outlay, the 2025 budget of 742.86 million for CO, almost 6 times the allocation for 2024, will cover the funding requirements for the construction of the new BOC building at Iloilo Commercial Port Complex, Phase 2, 48.70 million procurement of 17 motor vehicles, 57.2 million purchase of office equipment, 41.7 million acquisition of various ICT active equipment, 595.8 million for the BOC's Regional Data Center District Ports, Structured Cabling and Infrastructure, and Fraud Analytics.
So thank you, yung CO. Okay. May building pala na gagawin sa Iloilo. Well, I'll just appeal to the two agencies, Mr. President, Madam Chair, that they should institutionalize parang a complaints desk or window kasi para ma-address po natin yung mga reklamo pa rin.
With
Pero,
indulgence,
hindi
with
ko naman-
indulgence of the
yes,
majority
yes, sir.
leader, siguro I'd just like to ask, point out also, yung you're asking about the capital outlay, the construction, I had the chance to visit the Port of Manila last year for an event, and napansin ko po, Madam Chair, is that yung Port of Manila burned down. They're still holding office in the gymnasium right now. Probably that can be planned also in the next coming years kasi nandun pa rin ho sila. Sa gymnasium
wala.
nag-o-office ang Port of Manila.
Oh,
Office.
is that BOC concern?
That's BOC.
Yes. Bakit wala po sila? When did the fire occur, Mr. President? Kailan ba 'yon? Kailan nasunugan yung sa Port of Manila?
2019.
Oh, you're not. Bakit nauna po yung Iloilo na request?
We will be requesting today.
Sige.
What is needed is about 2.5 billion.
So about 2.5 billion is needed for this.
Oh,
Yes.
So it was submitted to the NEP, for the NEP, but it was not included.
okay.
So
Yes.
this is something that we
Yes.
can really look into.
Yes.
Anong mas priority ninyo? Nabasa na o? Yung mga na-include na? O ito? Yung mga binigay na ng NEP o ito?
Equally important.
Okay.
Pareho.
I was asking, Mr. President, what's more important? Maybe NEP, in the NEP, there might be an item that's not as important as this one, but they said it's equally important.
Ah. Sige, hanapan na lang kung talagang if the chamber feels that it is that important, Mr. President. Sige, but ito na lang, parang purihin ko rin yung dalawa nating ahensya na although may natatanggap tayong reklamo, hindi ko naman masabing dumami ang reklamo.
Okay.
So, well, i-address lang po natin yung mga reklamo. And then, Mr. President, talking about the Bureau of Local Government Finance, I hope, may I know the mandate of this office, Mr. President?
BLGM. Yeah. Okay. Essentially, it exercises administration, supervision. Yeah.
Essentially, the Bureau of Local Government Finance, BLGF, is assigned to assist in formulating and implementing local government revenue administration and fund management policies and exercise administrative and technical supervision over local treasury and assessment operations, among others. Yun nga sinasabi natin na binabantayan, hindi pwedeng more than 20% of their revenue yung utang nila, yung mga ganun fiscal responsibilities.
Yes. So yun lang, reminder na lang po sa BLGF na to be also be proactive, vigilant, and then guide our LGUs na hindi po sila mabaon sa utang. Kasi ang buong mundo ngayon, well, I don't know if my talk with the Secretary of Finance was confidential, hindi lounge, but ang buong mundo ngayon, parang nababaon na sa utang. Kaya nga ayaw natin maranasan din ng ating mga LGUs po yan na they will find it their debt levels to be unmanageable or uncontrollable. May I just know from the experience of the BLGF in analyzing the financial statements of our LGUs, ang utang ba ng ating LGU ay all peso denominated loans? All.
And in fact, meron pa nga silang surplus yung local government.
Yes, pero basically ano yun because of Metro Manila, I think Metro Manila.
Yes, mostly, correct.
So with that, Mr. President, I just wish the Department of Finance family all the best and all the luck in the world, and you are under good hands, Mr. President. Malaking tiwala natin kay Secretary Recto, is a visionary. And he holds his beliefs strongly. Talagang napag-aralan na po niya lahat yan. It's not necessary that we all agree with his siguro ano ba tawag mo doon, solutions to our problems or his vision, but what is important is he he has basis and he has studies to back up his conclusions, Mr. President. Yan naman ang importante sa lahat. So, customs and BIR, siguro par for the course ng inyong ng inyong ahensya talaga, merong magrereklamo, but please pay attention to all of the complaints, treat them seriously, and keep on improving. Keep on improving the delivery of your services, and then also the level of honesty among your people, among your employees in how they deal with the public, with the stakeholders. So I wish you all the best. Good luck, and thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your patience. Thank you, everybody.
President,
Thank you to our minority leader.
Mr. President, next to interpellate is none other than the chairman of the Committee on Ways and Means, the Honorable Sherwin Gatchalian.
The chair of the Committee on Ways and Means, Senator Gatchalian, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I just have a few items, and this is in continuation of some of the topics that a good minority leader propounded earlier. Actually, there's another tax measure that we enacted, Mr. President, that is not on the list that our good minority leader mentioned, and that's the Real Property Valuation Reform Act. It might not contribute directly to national coffers, but it will improve the financial capacity of the local government units. And the intention there is to make our local government units financially independent, hopefully so that they will not request numerous subsidies from the national government. So I'll focus on that. And the good minority leader also opened up the topic of BLGF, because BLGF is tasked to implement the RP-VARA law. So may I just ask the good sponsor on the status of the implementation of the RP-VARA law? Is that law, where are we in terms of the implementation of that law? And what are the challenges in terms of implementing that law? Because admittedly, that's a sweeping reform on how our local governments will value property and as well as collect taxes from those property, Mr. President.
Well, the exploratory talks with the World Bank was October 2024, but the
IRR next week.
the IRR will be ready by next week.
Oh, okay. That's congratulations in advance to the Department of Finance for releasing the IRR in the next few weeks. And Mr. President, a good sponsor, in the law, it also requires the creation of the Real Property Valuation Service, and this is a key office in the BLGF in order to fully operationalize this law, Mr. President. And in fact, this representation requested an additional budget of 89 million to operationalize this. Unfortunately, and I understand the good sponsor because budget is really tight, this was not accepted. Will it hamper will the non-creation of the RPVS hamper the implementation of RP-VARA?
Yes, it will.
And at the proper time, I'll request from the good sponsor that additional 89 million, because that 89 million is crucial in the implementation of RP-VARA, Mr. President, as stated earlier. But, ano? Ito ngayon, di ba? Ano ba yun? What are you saying? Where? Ang haba kasi. My next question, Mr. President, and this is in relation to RP Vara, and I saw this account. There's a project called Local Governance Reform Project, Mr. President. How is this project related to RP Vara? Because what I understand is RP Vara will be implemented by from ground up. And in this project will have any contribution or relation to the implementation of RP Vara?
It is part of it.
It is part of it, Mr. President.
And I also saw that the allocation is quite substantial, about 436 million pesos, Mr. President. So is this 436 million pesos?
Yes, yes, about 436.
36 million pesos. And Mr. President, is this the entire amount to complete the local governance reform project?
Is the entire amount needed? Yes.
Yes, it is.
To complete. And how will this contribute to RP Vara, Mr. President?
Yun yung mga breakdown.
No. Yeah, this particular one. Local governance reform, how will it?
Hindi natanggap to, diba?
That's the question.
Hindi natanggap.
Hindi.
So magkano natanggap? Magkano yung? Zero?
Foreign assisted siya, sir. So mag-accumulate lang siya ng commitment.
Okay.
Okay. This project will
Yeah.
help the
This project will help the real property assessment. It will help the real property information system and the computerized appraisal.
Mr. President, I understand there's no allocation for this coming.
For now,
2025.
there's no allocation for it.
I understand this is also a foreign assisted project.
There is an 11.6 million allocation
Okay.
out of the 400 plus.
Okay. And obviously the 11 million is going to be not enough for the 436
It's not
million.
even 10%.
Yeah, correct. And how will this be a problem in the implementation of RP Vara?
yes, it will be.
It will be.
So at the proper time, Mr. President, will also make some requests and amendments on how to allocate some amounts, maybe not the entire amount,
Priority.
because
Maybe
all of
we can ask them for a partial amount
Yes.
that is really necessary for it to be operational. Diba? Kaya nga, isa mo pa. Perhaps at the minimum half of it.
Thank you, Mr. President. And the point I'm trying to make, Mr. President, because RP Vara will be implemented next year. The IRR will be promulgated in the next few weeks. So the amounts are needed to make sure that in 2025, the implementation of this law will be unhampered and efficient, Mr. President. And we want to see the success of the implementation of this law, because this is one of the tax measures, albeit it's not similar to the other tax measures that were proposed here that will contribute to national coffers, but it will help our local governments become more financially independent. And with that, the hope there is they will not require as many subsidies, because they can collect their own taxes and be empowered in doing so, Mr. President. So it's important that we see RP Vara implemented to its fullest. Mr. President, another topic related to a law that we implemented, we also implemented the ease of paying taxes, Mr. President. And one of the core objectives of ease of paying taxes is digitalization. In the law, in RA 11976, Section 44 in particular, it calls for the creation of a digitalization roadmap that will be submitted to Congress. May I know, Mr. President, what is the status of that roadmap? And the BIR is tasked to come up with that roadmap. Ano yung allocation for the digitalization?
Then yung budget ng BIR for the digitalization.
1.82 billion.
Then the give me also that our budget of the BIR.
10% of that, 152 for ito baka masundin.
Which? Outlook.
Ano naman, lahat naman ng system.
Medyo marami yan. Sarap.
Mr. President, this is more like a chart, no, for the roadmap. Is it okay if we just submit this
Yes,
to you
Mr.
for your
President.
perusal?
Yes, Mr. President,
Okay.
we'll just request for a copy. And in the list of amendments that we submitted to Her Honor, to the good sponsor, is an additional of 152 million.
Maybe to assist lang.
But
2.4.
BIR,
the BIR
35 ICT projects.
has 35 ICT projects.
And Mr. President, I was saying earlier that we requested an additional 152 million to enhance the digitalization project of BIR. And this is connected to the comment of our good minority leader earlier, na marami pa siyang naririnig na hindi magaganda at mga controversies. And I truly believe that digitalization is a way to improve the delivery of service as well as the collection of taxes, as well as also to eliminate human intervention and eliminate those that are sources of corruption and, of course, controversies, Mr. President. So I fully support the digitalization effort of the BIR. And I also took note that the 152 million that we submitted for an additional amounts to the digitalization efforts of BIR was also not accepted. Will that hamper the digitalization efforts of the BIR this coming 2025 in relation to the digitalization roadmap? Because meron hong roadmap, of course, to operationalize that roadmap, we need amounts. But will that deficiency hamper the implementation of the roadmap, Mr. President?
Wala. Baka another one. Baka yun. Okay, that's the one. Okay.
Call center, 3 million,
For the
3 billion.
Yeah, for the
Yes.
Magkano call center?
for the ease of paying taxes, the budget is sufficient.
Ito.
For the ease of paying taxes, the budget is sufficient.
But there is an appeal of the BIR with regard to the contact center,
The appeal is with regards to the contact center,
which is
I think, is a very good idea, Mr. President.
which is at 297
Yeah,
million.
to outsource the contact center, because I understand that they only have 22 agents answering the nation's complaints in terms of tax collection, tax computation. So with the estimate of how many taxpayers do we have? How many registered taxpayers do we have right now?
60 million
60 million, 60. So
of 50.
50 million. Just imagine, we have 50 million taxpayers and there are only 22 people, agent, 20, less than 20 agents answering issues on computation, issues on documentation and others, Mr. President. So we submitted also an augmentation of about 297 million, and this is geared towards outsourcing the contact center, which I believe is a much more efficient way rather than government hiring all the call center agents and answering phone calls. I think outsourcing is the more efficient way, Mr. President. And will this 297 million answer all the complaints that the BIR, or all the, not complaints only, but all the questions, the queries, the calls that the BIR is receiving, Mr. President? And will this also be in line with the EOPT goal of enhancing the experience of our taxpayers?
Yeah, we will try to do with 250 to begin with.
To begin with, 250 may be sufficient. Although in other countries, there are more than 1,000.
Wow.
But also, there are certain things, I don't know if we notice, with AI also, for certain basic questions, if we modernize our ICT system, there are certain things that can already be auto-generated. Like if your question is, what is your balance? You can put in a PIN number that's with your account. It can tell you that. If you have questions, press 0. Then that's the only time you will be referred. So we could devise something like this.
I think that's a good idea, Mr. President, with the age of chatbots. Mr.
Yes,
President.
exactly what the BIR commissioner was saying. They already have it, but it's a very basic application. But that's how we are able to compensate for not having that many physical bodies attending to the call.
I think, Mr. President, a mixture of physical phone calls and also chatbots.
Correct.
I think that will be a good combination, Mr. President. Kung Apple meron Siri, sa BIR pwedeng Ralph ang chatbot. Ang pangalan para matandaan ka agad.
Revi?
Revi, meron na pa.
Revi.
Revi.
Oh, cute Revenue.
Revenue, short for revenue.
Si Revi.
Oh, Revi. Meron na pala, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, at the proper time, I'll make an appeal to augment the budgets of BLGF, BIR for the proper implementation of the laws that we enacted here, like RP Vara and EOPT, Mr. President. So, thank you to the good sponsor. Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing this representation to propound some question. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you for your positive.
Thank you, Senator Gatchalian, Majority Leader.
President, we have 3 more interpellators, namely Senator Rafi Tulfo, Senator Bongo, as well as Senator Pia Cayetano. I ask for a minute suspension, Mr. President.
Session is suspended.
Let me go first for a bit.
Because of the pandemic, the government borrowed 7 trillion.
Because of the pandemic, the government borrowed 7 trillion.
And that's why our debt ballooned to 13 trillion in 2022.
That's why our debt ballooned to 15 trillion, 13 trillion in 2022. Imagine.
PhilHealth did not spend a single centavo during the pandemic.
PhilHealth did not spend during the pandemic,
Not even one vaccine.
not even a vaccine.
No, but it's not PhilHealth's mandate to pay for the vaccines. It's
The
DOH.
reserve fund.
It's DOH.
The reserve fund of PhilHealth is exactly for the purpose of a pandemic.
The reserve
We
fund.
have a reserve fund.
So it could be used for that. But again, going back to the commitment of our secretary, he will adhere to the decision of the Supreme Court.
Okay,
Which,
because
yeah.
actually, Mr. President, Madam Chairperson, as Her Honor knows, I am the vice chair I am your vice chair. So it's not by desire to pose questions, but when I chair the budget of, when I defend the budget of health next week, both DOH and PhilHealth, I will not be able to answer the questions without DOF's presence. So may I ask the secretary to be sure that you have at least a USEC here who can answer all those questions, because we have colleagues who will be asking questions about those PhilHealth funds. I'd like to end on this note. DOF secretary is a member of the board of PhilHealth. So regardless of the provision, and I will be submitting an amendment that the health fund should not be touched for future, not in addition to the Supreme Court TRO, but it's going to be my recommendation that any measures taken by DOF to take excess funds, idle funds, should not include healthcare agencies, DOH and PhilHealth, because the DOF secretary now, because you were new in 2022, obviously, sits on the board of PhilHealth, and you will have the ability to tell PhilHealth now that use these funds properly. Spend it. Ang tagal-tagal ng rollout ng konsulta, which is the outpatient program, not because of the lack of funds, but because of the lack of planning. Nababayaran naman ng technical experts to create these programs so that ma-roll out yun. So we all know, I don't think anyone will disagree that those funds are needed, but they were not spent. No, so it is a sad reality that we have now, and the assurance that I want is that, because when I chair this, I will only have health officials in front of me. So I want the DOF secretary to assure us that there will be a responsible person who can respond. And do I get his assurance that moving forward, the work that you need to do to find idle funds should be done at the board, can be done at the board level. I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you my opinion that do it as a member of the board. Make them spend that money for healthcare. Yun lang naman po, Madam Chairperson, Mr. President.
Intend to do that.
Yes, thank you for your commitment and recommendation, Senator Pia, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Pia Cayetano. Likewise, I'm concerned being one of the authors, the sponsor of the Universal Healthcare, and I'm pretty sure also that our Secretary Ralph Recto, being the principal author of the UHC, will not allow that the UHC will fail. I'm sure that through his stewardship, that the Universal Healthcare law will gain traction, especially the program. Yes, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next to interpolate would be the chairman of the Committee on Public Services, Senator Rapi Tulfo.
Senator Rafi Tulfo is recognized next to interpolate our chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Magandang gabi po, Madam Chair. Tatlo lang po ang issue ko rito. Number one, yung Bugatti, and para makapaganda ka, Madam Chair. Number two, ay yung tungkol sa Vape. And then number three ay tungkol sa ukay-ukay. Let's start with the Bugatti. No March 1, 2024, BOC seizes 4.6 billion worth of vape products sa ilang mga warehouses sa Metro Manila. Ano nangyari po doon sa mga na-seize na mga vapes?
On vape products and e-cigarettes, the Port of Manila issued 4 seizure orders for a total of 42,300 boxes of vapor products with an estimated value of 15,346,600,000. 3 of the seizures were fully condemned on separate dates from April to August 2024. So I suppose ito ay sinira. Fully condemned, while the remaining seizure is currently undergoing condemnation proceedings at the Manila International Container Port. 10 seizure orders were issued for various vape products consisting of 15,018 boxes and 50,177 pieces with an estimated value of 1.836 billion. 7 of these seizures have been forfeited and are now undergoing condemnation proceedings. The remaining 3 seizure orders are currently in different stages or forfeiture proceedings and will be disposed of through condemnation once finalized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sino-sino po yung present na mga tao o other agencies of government during condemnation? Meron ho ba tayo mga pictures and videos nakuha habang ginagawa po yung condemnation? Madam Chair?
There are other agencies present during the condemnation activity.
There are pictures and documentation.
There are pictures and documentations.
It's just not available.
Is it okay for our colleague, Mr. President, for those pictures to follow for submission because they don't have it right now?
Okay. Okay, Madam Chair. Okay ako dyan, Mr. President.
Okay.
Recently, nag-ikot po yung mga staff ko at nagbili ng mga vape sa different stores in Metro Manila. At napansin po namin, karamihan sa kanila ay walang mga selyo ng BIR. So meaning, taxes were not paid. Paano ba yung sistema run us through from the time na parating pa lamang itong mga container na naglalaman ng mga vapes up to the time na na-release po ito sa BOC?
Bakit may mga, ibig sabihin kaya may mga nakalusot dun sa, is that what we're trying to infer?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Baka may nakalusot dun sa mga dapat na condemn na.
No. Tapos na tayo sa condemnation.
Hindi, pero dapat
Pero
daw
pwede rin,
doon nga sa seizure tsaka yung...
tinulungan mo ako
des-
rito. Thank you.
Oo.
Nakalimutan ko na yan, pero tama ka.
Hindi nila sinira.
Maaaring hindi na sinira at nakalusot
Oo.
nga. Tama. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. If I didn't mean to... So the procedure is,
First, they have to buy stuff from BIR.
They have-
Register with the BIR.
dapat mag-register muna sila sa BIR. Tapos bumili sila ng stamps. Tapos doon sa panggagalingan na port,
If it's,
kunyari galing sa China o kung saan man yon,
they install the stamps,
sasalpakan ng stamp bawat produkto
yeah, and then it's brought to the Philippines.
at saka dadalhin dito sa Pilipinas.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Ang pagkakaalam ko, yung kargamento parating pa lamang o in-expect na parating, yung importer ay magpa-file ng at-reg authority to release imported goods bago ito ma-release sa BOC. Base doon sa bill of lading na meron itong importer from the na ibibigay sa Bureau of Customs. Now, yung bill of lading na meron sila, dadalhin ito ng importer sa BIR and then magkakaroon ng bilangan kung ilan ba yung number of cartons and vapes na pinaparating at doon babayaran yung excise tax and then bibigyan ng number of selyo. Tama ba? And then pupunta sa customs, ipapakita yon and then once nakita ng customs na everything is in order, saka i-release yung kargamento.
Tama po kayo, Mr. President.
That is the old procedure.
Yan yung lumang procedure.
Starting when? September ba? June? Starting September? Or
Ah.
June? Starting June,
Nung nag-umpisa po ng June,
you cannot import it without the stamps anymore.
sa port of origin na po nilalagyan ng seal, Mr. President. So, ganun yung
Okay.
sa
Good.
June pa lang.
So, ang tanong ko po, Madam Chair, bakit napakarami pong mga vape na wala po mga selyo? So, ibig sabihin, hindi po sila nagbayad ng tax sa BIR. Ito po yung mga puslit. So, tulad sinabi niyo mismo, galing na sa inyo. So, maaari ito kasama doon sa 15 billion pesos na mga vapes na na-seize ng Bureau of Customs noon. Na ibis na sunugin,
I mean, y-
itinabi at ibinenta ulit. Recycle, parang gano'n.
Kasi nga yung inventory, depende nga po sa isusumite sa inyo, Mr. President, na pruweba ng pagsisira ng mga produkto na yon at saka kung sino ang naging saksi sa pagsira ng mga produkto na yun. Kasi di ba, yun nga yung nagiging problema, pati yung mga drugs noon, di ba? Kinukumpiska tapos binibenta ulit. So, hindi natin alam kung ano bang nangyari. Paano nakapasok? Either nakapasok yan or yan yung na kumpiska. Ano bang...
From what I know today,
Mm-mm.
laki na ang pinagbawas ng vape products in the market.
Oo.
Okay. Now, there are two now, so in the importation, you have the customs, and today even the BIR does raid in all the establishments that are selling vape products. Kung walang stamp tax, included ng BIR.
Actually,
Warehouses, right? What's the value now of your
na-confiscate. Nasa 15.
BIR naman.
Abia. Paano siya magkakakulat?
So, kung kailangan ito inform, yung sarap naman kasi wala dito lang din sa bagay price to the action. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Matagal na siya lang important. Itong physical expression sa mga
at least even the BIR,
Kahit sa BIR,
I mean,
may mga nahuhuli na po, Mr. President.
one about 1.2 billion worth.
About 1.2 billion worth, Mr. President, was confiscated, and then they're subject to destruction.
Right now, the BIR has a warehouse
May warehouse yung BIR, Mr.
with
President,
lots of vape products
na maraming vape
na
products
hindi pa na-destroy din.
na hindi pa nasisira, hindi pa sinisira.
So can
Pero-
we make sure na yung mga vape products na yan na nasa warehouse ng BIR ay talagang ma-destroy at dapat meron po mga witness na nakikita yung pag-destroy talaga? Kasi ang kinakatukutan ko rito, galing sa kanina sa inyo din, Madam Chair,
Okay.
na in fact, balita rin po ito na yung mga nakukumpiska, hindi naman talaga dinidestroy at binibenta. In fact, may mga information na yung nagbebenta ng mga vape na walang mga selyo, galing daw sa mga tauhan ng BIR at Bureau of Customs.
Tama po kayo na maging mapagmasid. Ngayon, ang sabi naman po ng ating BIR Commissioner, nakaschedule for destruction ng mga produkto na yon. Iniintay lang nila yung COA, yung guidelines, at saka yung presence din ng COA habang sinusunog nila kung ano man. Huwag yung
Siguro bukod sa COA, kailan siguro may mga taga-media and other members.
and other, pwede naman.
Yeah.
Pwedeng bang padalan kami ng notice kung kailan yung para makapadala kami ng representative?
At para inspection na rin kung yung susunugin ay yung karton na yun may mga laman at baka naman blanco na yung mga
Tama
karton
kayo,
at
tama.
nailabas na yung.
Magsuot lang kayo ng mask kasi pag sinunog yon.
Magkano do we have figures as to how much lost in revenue as a result of these vapes, their excise taxes not being paid? May figures po tayo
Your estimate.
My estimate,
annually,
we're losing 35 billion
35 billion.
on tobacco. The vape would probably be about 17 billion.
17 billion po.
Oh,
Okay.
so
That's
35 for the record, vape 17 billion lost revenue, 35 billion lost revenue for tobacco products.
So yung sa 17 billion na loss from revenue sa vape, so ano po yung mga programa meron tayong inilaan para yung 17 billion ay mabawasan man lang at masiguro na makapagbayad ng tamang buwis at makakumita ang ating gobyerno ng tama?
Two things. One, hinuhuli ngayon ng Bureau of Customs at ng BIR all these illegal vape products.
Okay.
Second, we will introduce a bill in Congress because the vape law has two taxes. Pag yung salt nick and free base. I think so. Ang mataas na tax in salt nick, yung mababang tax in free base. So they could smuggle in by saying it is free base and not salt nick. So baka mas mabuti.
Pag isa yun na lang.
Distinguish
Oo.
free base and salt nick, isang rate na lang.
So amendment na lang yan. So aside from apprehension, which they're now proactively doing, they propose to amend the law to remove the distinction of the type of vape products so that it's easier to monitor and also to collect an average amount, one rate.
Okay. Na-appreciate po natin lahat yung pong ginagawang pag-raid ng personnel ng Bureau of Customs sa different warehouses na meron po mga vape na misdeclared or underdeclared, etc. Nakakatuwa po marinig yon. Ibig sabihin, masipag po yung ating mga taga-Bureau of Customs. However, sana yung kasipagan nila, doon pa lamang po sa pinto ng Bureau of Customs, naharang na nila yon at hindi na po nila napayagan na mapunta pa po sa mga warehouse. Kasi lumilitaw po, ayon po sa mga nakausap ko mga negosyante, doon pa lamang doon po sa gate, meron na po silang in under the table at syempre identified na agad kung saan po pupunta yung vape. Pagdating doon sa warehouse, titirahin pa rin, doble ang kita. The fact na alam ng mga taga-Bureau of Customs kung ano yung warehouse na re-raidin, ibig sabihin, alam nila kung sino-sino mga pinayagan nila na wag na magbayad ng buwis. Baka yun po isang i-address na issue na masiguro.
Para hugas kamay na rin, di ba? Kasi
Correct po.
Kung ano man yun, di ba?
Information.
Thank you.
Tama. Sana po, doon pa lamang sa loob ng Bureau of Customs, maghigpit na po sila na para hindi na po makalabas yung mga vapes na hindi nagbabayad ng buwis, na hindi po na pumunta sa BIR para magbayad ng excise tax. So maghigpit-higpit po siguro yung Bureau of Customs. Otherwise, kung patuloy pong mangyari yan, so magtataka itong mga negosyante, bakit palaging merong nare-raid ang Bureau of Customs. At ang sagot din mga negosyante nagtataka ay sapagkat pinagpiperahan lang po yung sistema.
Actually, kung sinasabi natin na tinatayang 17 billion ang nawawala dito sa vape products, ang daming mga proyekto. Halimbawa na lang yung nasunog doon sa customs na pwedeng ayusin, yung ICT project at saka yung call center ng BIR. So, I mean, di ba, hindi, mabuti din na napansin ito na para naman maigihan natin ang pagbantay.
Okay. Sige po, okay na ako dyan. So maghigpit na po tayo sa Bureau of Customs para masiguro na monitored po lahat ng mga vape na makargamento papasok at maharang po yun at hindi na kailangang pang raiding sa mga warehouses. Let's move to Bugatti po. On February 9 and February 21, meron pong na-seize na red and blue Bugatti. At yun po ay in-auction, I believe. Ano pong nangyari doon sa auction? Ito yung red Bugatti na hindi po nagbayad ng buwis. Na in-expose ko po rito, if I'm not mistaken, last year din po.
Actions, okay. Status of one used 2019 red Bugatti and one unit used 2017 blue Bugatti. On September 30, 2024, the Port of Manila offered the said vehicles for public auction. However, there were no interested registered bidders on the posted sale lot. Subsequently, the Auction and Cargo Committee declared a failed bid pursuant to provisions 5.15.1. Anyway, the second public auction is scheduled this November 18. Actions taken against the individuals involved in the smuggling of two Bugatti Chiron units on September 6, 2024. After a thorough case profiling and build-up, the Bureau's action team against smugglers, Batas, filed 2 complaints against the registered owners and sellers of the forfeited Bugatti before the Department of Justice. The first complaint is against Tu Trang Nguyen, the owner of 2017 Bugatti, and Su Yong Chang, the seller of the said vehicle, while the second complaint is against Meng Jun Jie, the owner of 2019 Bugatti, and Su Yong Chang, the seller of the said vehicles. Status of complaints for preliminary investigation of the DOJ.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Meron na ho ba tayong result sa ginawa ninyong investigation sa Bureau of Customs kung saan pong customs port pumasok po yung Bugatti na hindi po nagbayad ng buwis at sino pong responsible ng mga tao doon sa pagpayag na ito'y makalusot?
Okay, LTO relied on electronically submitted CPs, a certificate of payments, which do not exist in BOC's database. Yun po yung naging problema.
And ergo, what they're saying is that they don't know what port it entered.
Yeah. So ito na. So the MISTG's corrective measures enhance electronic certificate of payment. The BOC has developed its current ECP mechanism by introducing additional features thereto now known as the Enhanced Electronic Certificate of Payment, EECP, which includes, among others, validation of the goods declaration is subject for an EECP, and if duties and taxes are already paid, number 2, audit logs to record all activities done in the system. And number 3, online monitoring of the EECP status by the stakeholders. So again, EECP's Enhanced Electronic Certificate of Payment.
So in other words, hindi pa po identified kung saan talagang exactly yung port na kung dinaanan po ng Bugatti at sino-sino po yung mga tao na possibly involved na pinayagan yung makalusot. Yan po is still under investigation.
Oo, kasi ano pala, preliminary investigation pa lang sa DOJ. Oo. Pero for now, the only probably consequence for them is hindi nila nakuha yung sasakyan. Nandun, nakapark kung saan.
Of course.
Sa Bureau of
Yeah,
Customs.
pero siguro, Madam Chair, kailangan continue pa yung investigation kasi mali natin baka tuloy-tuloy pa rin po ang papasok ng mga sasakyan tulad niyan, Bugatti, mga high-valued luxury vehicles. Na hindi po
A system will be a system will be introduced, Mr. President,
Hopefully by next year,
by next year.
that meron na tayong, yung
Pre-inspection.
inspection.
The pre-inspection process. Yung bang dun pa lang sa port of origin, iko-kompleto na nila. At saka ang naintindihan ko yung seller mismo ang magsasubmit ng description ng items sa isang database where about 117 government agencies, how many? 17 government agencies na will be able to
Then, so we will be introducing para mabawasan ang smuggling.
Oo, para mabawasan ang smuggling.
Yung third-party inspection.
Third-party
and
inspection.
Electronic invoicing.
Electronic invoicing. So bago pa lang pumunta dito, yung magbebenta o yung mag-e-export, i-fill out na yung invoice para hindi mapalitan nung importer pagdating dito. Kasi minsan, kung ano man yung nakalista doon, yung importer ang nagsasubmit ng kung anong detalye na ayos nila. Okay. Tinanong ko, Mr. President, kung yung seller naman doon ang magdoktor ng ng contents ng cargo, 'di ba? Pwede rin nilang gawin 'yun, 'di ba? Pero we're hiring pala a third party inspector. Ano talaga? SGS. Parang SGS, it's a company na that's what they do, pre-inspection, third
Do you
party
still rely on
pre-inspection.
SGS? The fact na several years ago na involved yun sa maraming scandal and controversy?
Not necessarily.
There are many other companies doing it already.
Okay. All right. Sige po. Let's go to ukay-ukay. Nag-file po ako ng Senate Bill 1778 to legalize and regulate the importation of ukay-ukay. Bagamat meron pong Republic Act number 4653 na ipinagbabawal ang ukay-ukay, meaning itong mga second-hand clothing or used clothing. Marami nakapasok ng mga ukay-ukay. And I'm not against ukay-ukay. I just want to make it clear to everybody. It is socially accepted. So we have to follow the will of the people. That's why I passed a bill legalizing it. Habang hindi pa po ito naging batas, ano po ang ginagawa ng Bureau of Customs para masiguro na nagbabayad ng buwis itong ukay-ukay? Kasi hindi po nagbabayad ng buwis itong ukay-ukay. Itong mga importers na ukay-ukay, not a single penny were being paid. Ang kumikita po dito, yung mga importer. So wala pong kinikita ang gobyerno ni Singkong Duling.
Mr. President, supposedly, hindi talaga nakakasingil ng taxes ang customs dito kasi nga illegal. So kung ano yun, kino-confiscate lang. Pero yung mga ibang ukay-ukay rin, nanggagaling din daw, minsan sa mga free zones, mga free port zones
Re-export.
for re-export. So parang mga overruns na...
So they use the special economic
So ginagamit yung special economic zones,
Facility,
sorting
and
facility.
then it's re-exported.
Pero, Madam Chair, ganito na lang po para to simplify things. Alam naman po ng Bureau of Customs kung sino itong mga tinatawag na ukay-ukay king. 3 tao lamang po yan.
Sino? Ngayon, alam mo, para ako nasa show ng Tulfo eh. Bigla ako naging curious. Siguro mamaya na lang. Patawag po natin sila dito.
Kasi
ngayon.
po nakakahiya naman po, parang sampal po sa ating mga otoridad sa Bureau of Customs.
Oo.
Lalo na merong batas na pinagbabawal yung ukay-ukay and yet left and right, tumingin ka, ang dami mga ukay-ukay nagkalat sa mga tiyangge, sa mga tindahan, etc. Although again, I'm not against ukay-ukay. Sana man lang magbayad sila ng buwis itong mga importer kasi wala nga sila talagang binabayad na buwis. And I'll tell you why. Kasi minimistik lang nila yun as use rugs. So, meron bang suggestion ng Bureau of Customs para naman kahit papaano habang wala pa ito, hindi pa naging batas itong bill na pinasa ko, na legalizing and regulating ukay-ukay, makapagbayad man lang ng buwis at para kumita naman ng gobyerno. Kasi sa ngayon, ang kumikita lang ito mga hinayup, mga masasama na mga importer.
Oo.
Itong mga gahaman na importer, sila lang kumikita at ang gobyerno ni Singkong Duling hindi po kumikita rito.
Sa balan. Order for order. So if it's just like if it's declared like structure, we don't allow it kasi we always dislike it's part of our parameters. But then if it's declared as government, we rely heavily on selectivity. But
Yeah.
then we still do random checks, physical check.
Yeah.
Iba-iba yung sizes, iba-iba yung style. Yan lang ang ano. Yan lang. Okay.
So the customs admits
So, they admit, customs,
may nakakalusot
na meron talagang nakakalusot dahil nga mahirap
to
to
determine
determine kung
the garment.
if it's a regular garment or yung
Rug.
or a rug.
Yeah.
Tulungan ko lang Bureau of Customs, Madam Chair. Use rugs.
Use rugs.
User
Yes.
Di ko,
Yun yung
I
code
wasn't
doon, use
familiar
rugs.
eh.
Alam niyo
I
naman
wasn't-
talaga Bureau of Customs. Kaya kung use rugs, buksan nila yung container, ukay-ukay ang laman noon.
Correct.
Mm,
Tama.
So they admit na may nakakalusot.
oo.
Okay? But having said that, we agree,
Yeah.
I personally agree. I would support the bill,
Yes.
Senator Tulfo, to legalize the importation of hookah, regulate it, and collect taxes.
Yeah,
Okay.
pero for the meantime, kasi yung bill po pending ngayon sa committee. So dapat gumawa tayo ng way na kasi ang pasok ng ukay-ukay weekly by the containers, by the hundreds of containers to So paano natin magawa ng paraan Bureau of Customs na magbayad man ito ng buwis para naman kumita ang kaba ng bayan?
Well, hindi pwede magkolekta nga sa kanila kasi nga illegal. On the other hand, siguro,
So therefore, ang gagawin na lang po natin, pag nakita niyo yung used rugs, di patawan niyo na magandang ng tamang buwis kasi yun naman ginagamit, used rugs. Taasan na lang siguro ang buwis sa used rugs because yun yung coding nila.
kasi pag binuksan po, at nakita, Mr. President, na ito ay damit,
Yeah.
hindi sila pwedeng magpikit mata at sabihin, use rugs natin, itatax yan. Hindi pwede.
Kaya nga po, ito nalito ako. Kaya ayusin natin ito dito. Yeah. So, dapat hulihin. So,
Oo.
ibig sabihin, hindi na hinuhuli dahil sapagkat nakakalusot.
Ayun
Kaya
na nga,
left and right,
nakakalusot
nakikita
talaga.
mo, nationwide, nagkalat po yung mga ukay-ukay. Again, ulitin ko for the end time, I'm not against ukay-ukay. That's socially accepted. Wala akong problema dyan kasi yan yung mga damit na binibili ng mga mahirap nating kababayan
Tama.
because it's affordable. However, gusto ko naman na kumita yung gobyerno, wag lang yung mga importer. Kasi mga importer, ito mga naging bilyonaryo sa pamagitan ng hindi pagbayad ng tamang buwis. Pinagkakitaan nila itong sistema na kung saan hindi silang sisita ng Bureau of Customs o nabubulag-bulagan ng Bureau of Customs, dito sila kumikita.
Tama po. And then,
So
thank you
can we
for
have come up
raising-
with a system until yung bill na pinasa ko ay
Okay.
maging batas
Yan po.
para makakolekta tayo?
Next time. Okay. Mr. President, I think there's a suggestion just to collect VAT on the value of all used drugs. Lahat. Pero it's almost like pero para po ang declaration.
Kasi ka po, Madam Chair, kung ginagawa lang talaga ng Bureau of Customs yung kanilang trabaho, wala po mga kalabas na ukay-ukay.
Illegal item. Drugs. Okay. So anyway, I think this is something that can be discussed on the side. I don't want to be a party to this, but I see the frustration also, but kasi nga kailangan ng ating mga kababayan ng mas murang bilihin, and nandiyan si Senator Raffy Tulfo na nag-propose ng isang batas na illegalize ito kasi sa kaligtasan rin nila, imagine kung mag-i-import tayo ng damit na may disease, hindi maayos ang pagkaano, may mga lice or kuto or whatever, di ba? Na mapupunta sa ating mga kababayan. So, dapat merong responsibilidad yung importer na laban muna ito or ayusin muna ito. Dapat na aayon yan sa batas. So,
Kaya nga, pero for the meantime,
mm-mm.
like I said, almost every week, by the hundreds of containers na ang laman ay ukay-ukay at hindi po nagbabayad ng buwis, paano po natin ma-resolve itong problema ito? Hindi po kumikita ang gobyerno
So
by the hundreds of millions.
is either hulihin nila
Either hulihin nila.
o magbayad ng VAT based on the value.
Pero paano po magbabayad ng VAT? Illegal naman po yun as of now because of RA
Based on their declared
4653.
Declaration of used drugs.
of used drugs.
Okay, so magbabayad po sila based on declaration ng used drugs. Magkano ho ba ang bayad, yung computation assessment po para sa isang container na nakalagay po used drugs?
Pero legal yun yung used drug, di ba? Hindi.
Magkano nga yung used drug?
Yung depending on the container, the value. Yeah, yeah. Pero in-import yan, sigurado, may invoice yan.
Magkano nga?
Based on the invoice. Hindi naman mas mahal pa yung transport ng actual cargo. Di ba?
Okay. Dami nagkalat po kayo. Kasi
Mr. President,
illegal nga, paano mo taksan? Illegal.
Sabi ka natin.
okay, wait, the matter will be studied, Mr. President. Kasi ganito yan, pag used drugs in declaration, na kumokolekta naman talaga sila ng tax. Kasi di ba, kasi used drugs naman, so pinapalabas niya, you just collect taxes. And the estimate is 1 million per container. Okay. So, kung dineclare nilang used drugs yan, hindi ko nga alam, may ganun
1
pala.
million pesos?
1 million isang
tax?
container.
I don't think so. I think 50,000 isang container nata pag used drug.
Oh, yan, 50.
The value of
Depende po sa kung debente ba, debente
Kung 1
or
million yung
50.
cargo, 12% of 120,000. So 120,000. So ganito yon. So lahat naman na kunyari nag-declare, Mr. President, na ano?
Hindi, ganito po yan eh. Debente o di 40 lang po.
Declare ng rags, trapo. Okay, kala ko carpet
Okay.
rags.
Hindi po, hindi carpet. Parang
Oh,
trapo
no,
po.
no, rags. Rags.
Yeah.
Rags. Okay.
Rags and riches. The rags to riches. Yung rags na dinideclare na sa Bureau of Customs nagiging kayamanan sa mga importers, smugglers.
So kung nag-declare naman po ng rags, may tax naman talagang binabayaran doon. Kasi yung declaration, yung hindi naman tax-free ang rags. So in a way, indirectly, nagbabayad rin siguro
Yeah,
ng tax.
pero hindi appropriate po yung taxes na ibinabayad for the rags. Kumpara doon kung talagang susukatin mo magkano kinikita ng importer kapag nabenta na po yung mga ukay-ukay na yun.
Tama po,
per
tama kayo
piece.
doon. Correct. Okay. So, for now, what they can do is apprehend, to be more vigilant in their inspections, but the best really is to pass the bill that you proposed para there's a differentiation. Kasi kung hindi ngayon, pagka nahuli nila, nakita nila mga ukay-ukay na damit, hindi nila pwedeng i-tax yun. That's for confiscation kaagad.
Narinig niyo na po yung 5 huli, lusot 20. Madam Chair.
Hindi, ngayon pa lang. Oh, pero
5 hulihin, 20 palulusutin. Yun.
sa publicity lang, parang ganon. Kunyari,
Yeah,
may,
baka
ano,
pwedeng imbestigahan niyo po itong practice na ito sa Bureau of Customs.
yes, okay.
At
Yes.
isang request ko na rin po sa Bureau of Customs, from now on, mas maganda po yung sa loob pa lamang ng Bureau of Customs compound, maharang na po yung mga kargamento na hindi nagbabayad ng buwis o yung mga kargamento na illegal. Kaysa naman payagan pa yung makalabas at pagdating doon sa warehouse, alam nila kung saan warehouse, uhulihin at tatarahan. Sabi pa nga po ng mga ibang negosyante, doble tara raw. Tinarahan na po kami sa gate bago naman mailabas. And then pagdating po doon sa warehouse, tatarahan na naman kami. Ang masama na, 2 beses na kami tinarahan, kinukumpis ka pa yung kalahati ng kargamento namin na tinarahan na at ibibenta pa nila. 3 times kumikita.
Grabe.
Grabe ano po, Madam Chair.
Opo. Yun na nga yung problema. Siguro, ewan ko kung alam ng ating commissioner yung mga nangyayari sa baba. Yun nga yung problema doon. Siguro, syempre ngayon nangangako naman lahat, no? Kasi budget hearing natin. Pero babalik pa naman sila uli dito next year. So, kayo nang bahala mag-follow up.
Okay. Sige. So magkita-kita ulit tayo next year. Mukhang sumakit din ang ulo mo, Madam Chair, ano? Para masalimuot. Tama ba?
I'd like to point out that
Okay.
the revenue target of the
Yung revenue target ng Bureau of Customs sa susunod na taon
is much, much higher than this year.
ay magiging mas mataas kaysa ang taon na ito.
Mhm. Okay.
Kasi daw,
We want them to be more efficient.
oo, kasi mas magiging efficient daw dahil kailangan ng gobyerno ng pondo dahil tataas na naman ang budget at siguro minimum traditionally 10% every year. Kaya
Ito double digit for next year. I think.
double digit yung kanilang prediction for forecast for next year.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tulfo.
Thank you, Senator Tulfo, Majority Leader.
Finally, Mr. President, the last to interpolate will be the Chairman of the Committee on Sports, Senator Bongo. Help.
The gentleman from Davao, Senator Bongo, is recognized for his interpellation.
Last, not on last.
Mr. President, first of all, I want to underscore the importance of the 2025 budget in our path towards recovery. We must build back our lives and learn from our experience during the pandemic. In this regard, as chairman of the Committee on Health, I want to continue to emphasize that we must invest more in improving our healthcare system. Having said that, Mr. President, I would like to propound some questions regarding the Department of Finance. Will the good sponsor yield the floor for a few questions?
Yes, Mr. President.
Salamat, Mr. President. As we know, the DOF directed PhilHealth to remit to the National Treasury a total of 89.9 billion unutilized funds of PhilHealth. Nakaapat na hearing na po tayo sa Committee on Health at naabutan na nga tayo ng temporary restraining order o TRO from the Supreme Court against the transfer of the remaining unused funds of PhilHealth to the National Treasury. Naintindihan naman natin na kailangan talaga ng pondo ng Department of Finance. Kailangan nila magwalis ng pondo. Gaya nung panahon ng pandemic, kinailangan talagang magwalis ng mga pondo para magamit sa pandemic, no? Trabaho naman po ng finance manager yan, especially our Secretary of Finance. The DOF said it will respect and abide the Supreme Court's order. May we just know if the 60 billion already transferred to the National Treasury can also be returned? Ano ho bang plano ng DOF dito? Gastos na ba ito? Pwede pa bang maibalik ito? Gaya ng parati kong sinasabi, maybe it's legally lusot, no? But morally, it's unacceptable po sa akin dahil marami pa pong naghihingalong mga pasyente na hindi nga po halos makalabas sa ospital, walang pambayad sa ospital. At na-discover po natin sa ngayon na sobra-sobra po ang pondo ng PhilHealth. During our first hearing, which our Secretary of Finance attended, doon po natin na-discover na meron pang 500 billion na reserve fund ang PhilHealth. Habang naghihingalo po ang ating mga pasyente, hindi makalabas sa ospital, yung iba ayaw na pong magpa-hospital dahil takot sa babayaran sa ospital. Hindi po ito katanggap-tanggap sa atin na naghihingalo pa itong mga pasyente at sobra-sobra po ang pera ng PhilHealth. Kaya naka-4 na hearing na po ako sa Senado, Mr. President, sa Committee on Health. At pinipilit natin, pinipiga natin ang PhilHealth to improve their services. At marami tayong na-discovering polisiya ng PhilHealth tulad ng single period of confinement policy na bawal pong magpa-admit sa same na sakit within 3 months. Kalokohan naman po yun. Mapigilan ba natin magka-diarrhea, bleeding, pneumonia? Sobra-sobra nga yung pera ng PhilHealth. Na-discover rin natin itong 24-hour admission o requirements nila na kailangan magpa-admit ka ng 24-hour para i-cover ng PhilHealth. Kalokohan rin po yun. But hindi mo na lang gamitin yung pondo kung magpapa-admit ka ng 24 hours, yung pambayad mo sa kwarto, pambayad mo na lang sa mga medisina. So nangako naman ang PhilHealth na pag-aaralan nila itong pulisiyang ito. At nakiusap rin tayo sa PhilHealth to expand benefit packages including dental, yung sa mata, check-up, early detection, at iba pang mga sakit. No? Expand benefit packages, increase case rates, at meron rin tayong naipasa dito sa Senado with our presiding officer, ang principal sponsor. Ito pong amending the Universal Healthcare Law. Sana po ma-reduce na po ang premium contribution starting next year. Kung pumasa po ito, I'm sure dadaan rin po ito sa Department of Finance na from 5% to 3.25 kung maisabatas po itong amending the Universal Healthcare Law. Babawasan po yung premium contribution from 5 to 3.25% dahil sobra-sobra nga po ang pera ng PhilHealth. Anyway, ang tanong ko naman po sa inyo, yung 30 billion na hindi pa po na-transfer sa Treasury, maaari po ba itong gamitin pa ng PhilHealth para sa health, para ma-improve pa ang kanilang serbisyo at hindi na tuluyang makuha at mawalis pa ng Department of Finance? Mr. President, patuloy po ang panawagan natin sa PhilHealth na huwag hayaan yung matenga po ang kanilang pondo at gamitin nila ito na mapalakas pa ang kanilang serbisyo. Expand medical services, gamitin niyo po ito sa mga mahirap nating pasyente. After consistent and continuous appeals and numerous Senate Health Committee hearings, PhilHealth has officially committed to assure implementation of its promises, such as recommending the reduction of premium contributions, increasing case rates, especially for the top 10 mortality diseases, expansion of benefit packages, provision of free medicines and assistive devices, such as eyeglasses and wheelchairs, inclusion of dental, visual, emergency, and preventive care, as well as updating policies to meet the needs of our people, such as their promise to remove its 24-hour confinement rule. our relentless scrutiny. I'm sorry. Our relentless scrutiny has already led to the scrapping of PhilHealth's flawed single period of confinement policy. Aside from that, Mr. President, PhilHealth is asking Congress for additional subsidy amounting to 74 billion for 2025. The committee report reflected a decrease of 5 billion, which was realigned to be used primarily for additional support to specialty hospitals. In line with this initiative, may we ask from the good sponsor if we could also realign additional budget for the operations of DOH hospitals. Marami pong mga DOH hospitals ang nabawasan po ng pondo. Marami po akong nakakausap sa kakaikot ko po sa mga hospital. Ang reklamo nila, nababawasan po sila ng pondo sa lalong-lalo na yung pantulong sa mga mahirap. Well, sobra-sobra naman po ang pera ng PhilHealth. Bakit natin sila bibigyan ng almost 70?
Tama. Actually,
Mr. President.
Mr. President, actually, thank you for displaying putting all of those things out in the open. And thank you to our secretary here na dahil sa kanya nalaman natin may reserbang pondo at sa inyong suggestion, Mr. President, kay Senator Go, kasi nga sinasabi nga niya itong PhilHealth hindi ginagastos. Bakit hindi lagay sa mga specialty hospitals? Ang sagot po doon, kahit naman kami frustrated, kasi nasa batas kasi na a certain percentage of collections from tobacco, and also high sugary drinks dapat mapunta talaga sa high beverages, sweetened beverages ay mapunta sa PhilHealth. So parang nandun tayo nakapako dun sa batas na yon na kahit ginagamit nila o hindi, pero siguro pwede tayo magkaroon siguro ng special provision na PhilHealth should be able to disburse this much to specialty hospitals.
Not only to
Immediately.
specialty hospitals, Mr. President, Madam Sponsor, pati po sa mga DOH hospitals, andun halos yung mga mahirap nating kababayan, lalong-lalo na po sa Mindanao at Visayas, mga DOH hospitals. Wala nga silang kulang yung MOOE nila. At yun po ang parating reklamo nila. Sa sobrang dami po ng pasyente, nagre-request po sila ng additional budget para dito sa mga DOH hospitals. Not only limited sa mga specialty hospitals such as NKTI, Heart Center. Nabasa ko nga, nabanggit nyo po na you realign some budget from PhilHealth to specialty hospitals. Baka pwedeng isama nyo rin po yung mga ibang hospitals, government hospitals, mga DOH hospitals, nabawasan sila, na-slash po yung budget nila. Bakit tayo magdadagdag ng pondo sa PhilHealth?
Na ang daming pera.
Ang dami nilang pera, 500 billion, Madam Sponsor.
Hindi, ganito nga po Mr. President. Kahit na ayaw natin na dagdagan, nasa batas kasi na yung porsyento ng kinikita doon sa mga sugary drinks at saka sa mga vape products at tobacco, meron silang porsyento. So kahit na gusto natin bawasan, hindi pwede. Pero ang pwede natin sigurong gawin dahil ang ating Secretary of Finance ay miyembro ng komite dito sa PhilHealth na sinasabi, a certain amount from the PhilHealth savings should be allotted to the following hospitals in the fiscal year 2025. Pwede kaya yun? Pwede. So, imbis na idadagdag natin dito sa budget, doon na sila kukuha.
Naintindihan ko naman kaya lumulobo po yung pera ng PhilHealth. Sabi niya, meron ngang 500 billion na reserve fund.
Tama.
Dahil ito sa mga taxes na pumapasok. Ang tanong ko, bakit natin bibigyan ng 74 billion ang PhilHealth
Kasi
na
nga
pwede
nasa
natin
batas.
i-allocate dun sa mga hospitals?
Mr. President, kasi nga nasa batas na hindi natin pwedeng babaan ang ibibigay sa kanila kung mataas ang koleksyon ng buwis sa mga tobacco at saka sugary drinks. Kahit na sabihin natin hindi pwede, ayaw natin ibigay, nasa batas na nakalagay, kailangan bigyan nyo sila ng 50% na kinolekta ninyo mula sa buwis ng sugary drinks.
Correct, Madam Sponsor.
Pero pwede natin,
But last year, Madam Sponsor,
baka pwede naman.
last year po, 40 billion po ang binawas ng Congress sa proposed budget ng PhilHealth. Hindi ba natin pwedeng gawin rin po dito?
Okay, so special provision.
Opo.
Pwede
Ilagay natin
ninyong-
sa health talaga, diretsyong tulong sa mga
O
mahirap.
sige po.
Kasi ang takot ko rito, Madam Sponsor, baka next year, pag sumobra na naman ang reserve fund ng PhilHealth dahil sa collection ng taxes, dahil sa batas na ipinasa natin, baka mawalis na naman po ito.
Okay, so yung suggestion ninyo, Mr. President,
Magwali.
oo. Maraming salamat actually kay Senator Bongo, Mr. President. So ang sinasabi ninyo, kasi nga naintindihan ninyo na talagang wala tayong choice, kaya nilagay natin yon initially, pwede ngang amyendahan na maglalagay ng special provision or
It's the allocation.
or yung allocation mismo.
gaya ng ginawa
I-propose
nyo-
na lang ninyo.
Opo, Madam Sponsor, gaya ng ginawa nyo, pinropose nyo
Oo.
po to specialty hospitals, baka
Oo.
pwede naman po aside from specialty hospital, isama po natin yung mga government hospitals,
Okay.
DOH hospitals.
Sige po.
Dahil sila yung nakakala. There are around almost 72 DOH hospitals sa
Okay.
buong Pilipinas, aside
Sige.
from these specialty hospitals.
Maganda yan. Siguro at the proper time, dun sa period of amendment, kung or isubmit na po ninyo yung Mr. President, yung inyong amendments para doon, para ma-incorporate na natin sa budget.
Alam nyo,
proposal.
Madam Sponsor, ang guro natin yan dito full support naman po ako always sa ating Department of Finance at malaki po ang tiwala ko sa ating Secretary of Finance. Taas ang respeto ko po dyan. Ang pakiusap ko lang po, Madam Sponsor, and also sa ating Secretary of Finance, sana po itong PhilHealth talaga. PhilHealth, kaya nga po may health Gamitin po natin sa health. Habang naghihingalo yung mga pasyente, nakikita ko talaga, pumunta kayo sa mga hospital, hindi makalabas, nagmamakaawa. Bakit sila nagmamakaawa sa mga hospital billing? Tayo na didiscover natin, 500 billion reserve fund, natutulog. Nawawalis na lang po habang namamatay yung mga pasyente.
If I may interject with the intelligence of Senator Bongo, being the principal sponsor of the UHC and with our our secretary Ralph Recto as the principal author, hindi naman natin masisisi ang DOF no in this whole controversy. I think it's really PhilHealth who is at fault kasi dapat po ginagastos nila yung pondong yan. And I would think that if they have improved the case rates, yung pong 70 billion, kulang pa ho yun kung lahat ng pasyente, alam nyo po yun,
Kaya
na
nga,
nangangailangan ay talagang binigyan nila ng tamang pondo. I think they have failed in the adjustments of case rates. So I think it's about time that we really have to convene our oversight committee as to where the shortcomings were. So
correct. Actually, naka-4 na hearings na po ako dito sa Committee on Health no sa Senado. At nangako sila, expand nila yung case rates nila. 9,000 case rates. Pinag-aaralan pa raw nila. Marami pong mga pulisiya sila na 2013 pa, katulad ng single period of confinement policy.
I agree.
Ba't tayo pa ang makadiskubre dito? Sila nga yung mga doktor, dapat sila yung mga nakadiskubre. At membro naman po ang DOF ng PhilHealth Board. Pakitulong na lang po, Secretary Recto, para gamitin nila yung pondo ng PhilHealth para hindi nakatenga dyan at natutulog habang yung mga pasyente naghihingalo at nangangailangan po ng tulong. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President. Yun lang po yung tanong ko kanina. Yun bang na-transfer na, mababalik pa po ba yun o nagastos na po ito at may babalik pa ba ito?
Hindi kasama sa utos sa Supreme Court.
Hindi kasama sa utos ng Supreme Court.
Ano man ang
Kung ano man ang sasabihin ng Supreme Court, susundin naman natin.
So ibig sabihin po na part na po ito ng naibalik sa National Treasury at maaring nagastos na.
Nagamit na actually para sa pagbayad sa mga healthcare workers nung pandemic na hindi nabayaran. So, at least kahit papaano may porsyento pa rin napunta dun sa
So itong
health.
30 billion na hindi pa na-transfer, patuloy po itong gagamitin ng PhilHealth.
Yes.
Yes.
Since
Ay,
since
patuloy pa rin nakatengad sa kanila.
nakatenga.
Matutulog pa rin.
Oo.
Kaya nga, sana po, Secretary Recto, tulungan niyo po ang PhilHealth. Bilang membro po kayo ng PhilHealth Board, along with the Department of Health Secretary. Pakitulungan na lang po sila. And I'm sure, being the one of the authors and sponsor ng Universal Healthcare, we are very, very, very far yet sa full implementation ng Universal Healthcare. Habang nakatenga, natutulog yung pondo ng PhilHealth dyan. Kawawa yung Pilipino. Thank you. This would enable us to progressively realize universal healthcare in the country and to ensure that all Filipinos are guaranteed equitable access to quality and affordable healthcare. That is all, Mr. President. I am confident that under the capable leadership of Secretary Ralph Recto, we will be able to manage our government resources more efficiently. Full support naman po ako sa inyo, sir. Thank you po, Mr. President.
Thank you to our Chair of the Committee on Health, Senator Bongo. Thank you very much, Majority Leader.
President, there being no other member of this chamber who will interpolate, I move to close the period of interpellation and consider the budgets of the following agencies: the Department of Finance and its attached agencies, the Office of the Secretary, the Bureau of Customs, the Bureau of Internal Revenue, the Bureau of Local Government Finance, the Bureau of Treasury, the Central Board Assessment Appeals, the Insurance Commission, the National Tax Research Center, the Privatization and Management Office, and the budgetary support to government corporation, particularly to the Philippine Tax Academy, deemed submitted for the body's consideration. I so move, Mr. President.
There is a motion of the Majority Leader to close the period of interpellation and consider submitted aforementioned budgets. Is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for a minute suspension.
Session is suspended.
Adding 300 million to textbooks and other instructional materials. Being a former member of the EDCOM, Senator Pia knows exactly the problems of our textbooks, and I thank her for increasing 300 million to that account. We also thank her for increasing 500 million for the training of our teachers for the implementation of the Matatag curriculum. We are now in the middle of implementing the Matatag curriculum, and we are expanding it this coming school year. And during our school visitation and our interaction with our teachers, one of their requests, and remember this clearly, is training so that they will fully understand and be fully equipped in implementing the Matatag curriculum. So I thank the good sponsor for adding $500 million to the training program for the Matatag curriculum. And then I'd like to also thank the good sponsor for adding 200 million to the school-based feeding program. And I understand that the desire of the Department of Education is to have universal feeding program for kindergarten and stage 1, no? Or kindergarten. For kindergarten, and this is actually a commendable achievement to roll out a universal feeding program for our kindergarten students. And I remember experiencing when I was a mayor, experiencing this phenomena we're in when students are stopped being fed during summer holidays. Their nutrition regresses and they go back to their malnourished state. So this universal feeding program will enable them to withstand that 2-month summer slide in terms of nutrition. Oh, Mr. President, good sponsor, would like to just appeal a few items, and this will come in the form of a manifestation, Mr. President, and the good sponsor can give us some of her thoughts on this. Would like to thank the department for now fully implementing one of the most important laws that we enacted here in the Senate, and this is the Excellence in Teacher Education Act, wherein we empowered the Teacher Education Council and gave it more powers to make sure that the pre-service education and also in-service training are aligned, and in-service teaching are also aligned to the pre-service curriculum. And I'd like to thank the department for operationalizing this through the Teacher Education Council. However, when we were looking at the budget to fully roll out the Teacher Education Council, to fully empower the Teacher Education Council, they would need additional positions. And when we consulted with the Teacher Education Council, they requested for additional 28 position. In their request to DBM, they requested 28 additional positions so that they will effectively do their job. And this amounts to about 28 million pesos, Mr. President. And of course, in addition to that, they also requested the DBM an additional 30 million pesos for their operations and for their activities, Mr. President. So an additional of 58 million pesos was requested to the DBM. Unfortunately, that was not carried by the DBM. So, Mr. President, this representation is appealing to the good sponsor and to the good sponsor for this additional 58 million pesos to fully equip the Teacher Education Council. I truly believe that this is a low-hanging fruit and an immediate reform in terms of strengthening and empowering our teachers, especially when it comes to training, also in locating good potential teachers to come into the system. And the Teacher Education Council has a lot of powers to improve the teaching capabilities of our education system, Mr. President. So I would like to put that on the table, and hopefully at the proper time we will submit our recommendation to her honor, to the good sponsor, Mr. President. Mr. President, another manifestation, and also this is quite close to the heart of Senator Joel, unfortunately he's not here with us, is to fully operationalize the Philippine Qualification Framework as mandated by law in 2017. And they also requested an additional of 35 million pesos to the DBM. Unfortunately, it was not carried. And the 35 million pesos supposed to hire 35 additional personnel so that they can beef up their team and they can operationalize the secretariat. This operationalization of the secretariat has been delayed for many, many years. And I remember, I'm sure the good secretary remembers this, whenever we talk to Senator Joel, this is one of his requests to already implement and operationalize the secretariat of the PQF. And I'm also happy to hear from the department that they have now plans to fully operationalizing the secretariat, but unfortunately, the funds are not adequate to do so. So, Mr. President, at the proper time, I will also request Her Honor an amount of 35 million pesos to operationalize the PQF Secretariat. Mr. President, I have a few more items, but I will just send to Her Honor in writing those requests that we feel that is also necessary to improve the budget of the Department of Education. But those two are actually the most immediate and the most important that we feel that we should augment so that these two important laws will be fully operationalized this coming year, Mr. President. So with that, Mr. President, I don't have any more manifestations. And again, I thank the good sponsor for accepting our suggestions and augmenting some of the most important programs in the education sector. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Mr. President. We assure His Honor that we will prioritize these two, well, at least the two that he mentioned, and we'll take a look at the others in the list he intends to submit to us. And we'll make space for whatever we can. Those two are very much aligned also with our priorities. So we're happy to give whatever support we can.
Maraming salamat. Thank you to
And the Secretary extends his support, his gratitude.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Gatchalian.
Oh, yeah.
Pinanik.
Basahin ko? Okay.
Ah, sige.
I believe the next to interpolate is our minority leader, Senator Aquilino Coco-Pimentel.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the permission of our sponsor, we know the department is in very good and capable hands. So our interpellation on the department's budget would be simply for transparency's sake. Kasi marami naman nakasubaybay na mga kababayan natin. Can you check ilan ang nag-view sa live streaming natin? So at least this is for them, no? For them.
Minority Floor Leader, si Secretary Angara, very active siya sa Instagram.
Yeah.
Yung asawa niyo mas active kaysa sa inyo. So nandun lahat ng update niya, mababasa niyo doon. Ako na nagsasabi. Transparent siya doon.
So in the interest of time then, because I want the Filipino people to be involved in the budget process. They should be interested, they should also understand the system more kasi hanggang ngayon nga hindi pa naman natin 100% naintindihan tong ating budget process, Mr. President. So in the interest of time, this representation also received a transmittal from the Second Congressional Commission on Education. It's dated today, so November 7, 2024. With some proposed amendments. So siguro if the sponsor will allow it, I'll just forward this letter to her. It contains 5 proposed amendments. Basahin ko na lang yung general topic. Number 1, the same raised by Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, Teacher Education Council Secretariat. Number 2, the same raised by Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, Permanent Secretariat of the Philippine Qualifications Framework National Coordinating Council. But here, number 3, special provision for the 206.7 million added in the budget of the National Nutrition Council. Number 4, special provision for the NC3 in early childhood education under TESDA. Number 5 is construction of childhood development centers in 48 barangays located in priority 5th and 6th municipalities that currently do not have a single daycare center as mandated by law. So I will just be submitting this to Her Honor in the interest of saving time. Is that okay with you?
It is okay. I just have very quick response
Yes,
for His Honor. I'm happy to inform you that they're all, of course, you have no issue with our also recognizing those as priority items. The secretary will be very happy with all of this if we can find fiscal space. But I do want to point out that with respect to the item on nutrition, that is under the budget of the National Nutrition Council, which I will also be defending and be happy to support. It is one of the items that I also was supporting when I was still in EDCOM. So that's in the
Is that
DOH budget.
DOH budget,
Yeah.
yes.
And then one last item on the support for the fifth item, the support for child development centers in the 48 barangays located in priority 5th and 6th municipalities. Every single year we budget for this, no? Because I started sponsoring the budget of DepEd during the pandemic, most of the reasons given for the delay in the implementation was the pandemic. But I think even last year there were still delays. So I'm very happy to support it. It's just that we have to make sure that they get built. But I do have exciting news for everyone. Secretary Kiko Benitez has made a special request for a certification program to be put together by TESDA for daycare. I don't know the exact title, but the National Certification for Early Childhood Education under TESDA, which is again something I've been pushing for because we cannot fill those daycare centers overnight. But we will now be certifying senior high school students who are interested in an education track to have qualifications to run this, or eventually, maybe they'll take the certification, then through ladderized education, which is also a law that we passed, they can become full teachers. So there's a lot of things happening to address this need, Mr. President.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. As member of the EDCOM 2, Mr. President, I'm also taking my responsibility seriously. So I took the initiative of meeting with the teachers, public school teachers in the city of Marikina, and had a no-holds-barred dialogue with them. I actually summarized, I may not have captured all of the issues that they raised, but at least some of the issues that they raised in a letter to our secretary. But for the record, one concern is, for example, the guidelines for promotions are not being followed properly, with instances where individuals have secured high-ranking positions without passing the required qualifying exams. Is that possible, Mr. President? So, for example, siguro we'll apply it, a principal, a person can be appointed principal without taking the national qualifying exam for school heads. Is that possible?
So they do have guidelines specifically to address this, to prevent this from happening. But it has happened, and when they find out, they deal with it as precisely those guidelines are there so they can be followed. And they're happy to look into this Marikina incident or cases.
They also expressed concern over the school division's lack of transparency regarding financial reports, particularly those related to the Special Education Fund. The Federation President has disclosed that sometimes she has been asked to sign financial documents without sufficient transparency as to their contents. May we know what role the DepEd or the Secretary can play in increasing transparency related to the Special Education Fund?
Mr. President, the control of the fund is with the LGU.
Correct.
But given that it is a special fund for education, the DepEd really has instructions to the teachers. They give them basic rules, no, like do not sign anything in blank. In case of any questions, magtanong muna kayo bago kayo pumirma. And if there are any concerns, of course they can report to them. But it is an LGU fund and it is subject to COA then.
Di ba the chair is an employee of the DepEd or a ranking member?
Co-chair po ang superintendent, but I think the reality is it would be the mayors who would call the shot. So pag may inutos na okay, edi okay. Pag may inutos na hindi okay, then I guess naiipit sila. But DepEd is assuring us that they are instructing
Thank you.
the superintendent and all to be non-partisan.
Yes.
And not to sign
and
these
maybe
anomalous
to also value that concept of transparency,
Yes.
of the right of the other members of the board to know, to meet, siguro. Not do everything via referendum, na pirma-pirma na lang. Siguro the actual meetings must be held, Mr. President. Kung pwedeng ano lang ba, yung exhortation from the Department of Education.
It's duly noted and the secretary
you.
said they will push for that.
Is there a maximum residency rule on the tenure of school heads? Because the allegation also in Marikina is that some have exceeded the maximum residency rule, and this has been disregarded on many occasions.
Yeah. There's a 5-year residency rule, Mr. President.
Is that a
ba yung
very
5-year
strict rule? Is that a
residency? 5-year
strict
cap.
rule?
Strict
Ba yan na talaga no one should exceed the 5 years? So sometimes you allow service beyond the 5 years?
Very well. Minsan walang magaling. It is a soft rule, Mr. President, because sometimes the school is performing exceedingly well, or there may not be anyone capable in maybe in the far-flung areas. It is an old law, so of course it can always be revisited by the new. It's not a law, no. It's a rule. It's an internal rule, department order. So of course they can revisit that anytime. But I think at the end of the day, what's best for the school and the students. If there is negative feedback, of course, then they will act on it and enforce the 5-year rule firmly.
Hindi, my point is kung may nababasa kasi nila may 5-year rule and then may
Tapos hindi nga
napapansin nila
So it is a
may
soft
lumalampas, they might feel
Oo.
na may favoritism or whatever,
Yeah.
may connection na ginamit. So
I guess you-
in a nearby in a place near the center or in a city in the center of the country, siguro we should apply the rule, because if it's applied in the far-flung areas, there must be some other reasons why we cannot get a replacement.
the whole. They look kasi the reality is they look at the whole division because they do rotations. I mean, assume
Yes,
there's no reason. It's not meant to be a demotion. It's meant to just follow the rule and rotate them. But sometimes the rotation is not a practical step forward because a small school principal may not be able to handle a big school. So then they have to decide what's best for the students.
But I'm sure hindi sila nakukulangan sa tao or willing to take on the challenge. Sige, pakitingin na lang po, Mr.
Yes.
President.
They will.
And then I will not name names because I don't want to embarrass people, but there are also charges of nepotism because mga family members have secured positions within the division. If if you can take a look at this, Mr. President.
They will take a look at that, Mr. President.
Yes. And then some additional concerns. Dapat ito, applicable siguro to kahit sa outside of Marikina City. Teachers with full teaching loads, 6 hours per day, are still being assigned ancillary services, contrary to regulations. So, number one, is that the full teaching load, is it 6 hours a day? Tama po ba yun? Yung feedback sa akin. And is the assignment of ancillary services really contrary to regulations?
Per DepEd Order number 5, series of 2024, teacher ancillary tasks refer to work incidental to a teacher's normal teaching duties like preparation of lesson plans and checking of exercises. This is performed by our teachers in the remaining 2 hours that complete their 8-hour day. So I think that's one that should be clear, no, na
Okay, so-
pasok pa yan.
Yeah, pasok pa yan.
Then the overload is applicable to excess in teaching loads of teachers. In such cases, they are compensated by teaching overload pay. Regardless of whether a teacher has overload hours or not, they are all expected to perform teacher ancillary tasks since these are incidental to their teaching load.
And a full teaching load is 6 hours. Tama po yun?
Is 6
Tama.
hours.
Maximum. Okay. Ang second additional concern is that ito po, iba to ha, paki-relay na lang po rin. At i-raise din natin ito pag humarap sila sa atin. The Department of Information and Communications Technology public Wi-Fi in schools is not functioning properly. So, of course, siguro within the DepEd, meron ba kayong feedback system na do you also get that feedback? Ano, so it's functioning? Oh, no, okay. So that's part of what was shared to me, Mr. President. So. Nag-work sa inyo? Sa Valenzuela, nag-work? Nag-work sa
Yeah.
Valenzuela.
So, the vice chairman handling the budget of DICT is hereby notified of DICT's lack of performance.
But yeah,
And of course, I joined the secretary in his appeal for DICT to prioritize these areas with high student populations because they are very much affected. And sila talaga yung gusto nating makinabang sa Wi-Fi, hindi lang yung entertainment, no? I mean, with all due respect, we all deserve our entertainments in whatever form, but the purpose of that Wi-Fi is really for education purposes and perhaps work purposes. So I'm looking at the
So we're-
vice chairman.
at least we have been given this feedback, Mr.
Yes,
President.
thank you for the
Madam-
feedback.
Yes. And then the teachers are requesting a 1-to-1 ratio of teaching resources, particularly laptops or computers. So relay lang po ako ng request.
Trabaho na po ng congressman yon na susunod na congressman sa distrito ng Marikina.
Wala tayo sa budget na ganyan program.
Meron
What is
po.
the ratio? What's
We
the
actually
ratio?
have. We
Yeah,
have
but is it 1-to-1 na?
I mean, parang school building din yan. We have a big backlog kasi recently pa lang naman tayo nagko-computerize, Mr. President.
And then one more observation shared with this representation is that the selection process for training and seminars has been in favor of individuals based on personal connections rather than qualifications. So we just asked the department to take a look into that. Siyempre parang ano yata yan eh, when you attend a training or a conference, it's a plus for you in your record. So siguro ang observation nila paulit-ulit or may pabor-pabor sa pagpili kung sino yung makaka-attend sa seminar.
Yes, noted. The secretary will make sure that they look into this and have a fair policy, implement fair policies.
So, Mr. President, just to save time, kasi my staff noticed a lot of entries in the COA report for the year 2023. Hindi naman po time ni Secretary Angara yon. So, kung pwedeng hingi na lang kami on how the department intends to address the issues raised by COA
Yeah.
in the latest COA report, diba?
Yeah.
Okay po.
The secretary said they will
In
furnish
writing,
us also with the response or how they're responding to that.
So I just noticed in the budget for the DepEd, I noticed a 30 billion increase. So saan lang po saan po to papunta, Mr. President?
Ha? 3 billion lang po, 3.
3?
From last year, I think he's talking about.
GAA 2024, 715 billion, Office of the Secretary, and daw NEP, unless NEP, NEP 745, so 30 billion. Pero sa committee report pala natin, 748 billion. So a 33 billion peso increase from last year's, from last year's GAA level. So may we know where the 33 billion will be placed, Mr. President?
From last year. This is mostly PS. So hiring, is it a salary increase? So it's mostly salary increase, not new hire. New hires and salary increase, or mostly salary increase? Yeah, mostly PS salary
PS.
increases in particular.
Okay. Hindi pa masyado malaki yun.
Pero pong malaking item. What po yung 30 billion na ito.
Okay,
Ito po yung lista.
okay. We have a list. We can give His Honor a
Sige po.
complete breakdown.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes, okay
Just
na.
give you the
Yes,
breakdown.
submission
Yeah,
of the
I have
list.
here a breakdown.
Yes,
Okay.
But I noticed also some decreases. Tama po ba to?
Pero tama, Mr. President, the biggest is really the
Sweldo.
personnel benefits, 579 million of the
Yes.
30 billion. But as I said, we can give.
Yes. In
Medyo
writing.
ang dami. There's like a 1.5 page
Apa.
of different programs, but that is the biggest.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor. So,
Pabigyan natin ng kopya.
in the inclusive education program, I noticed a decrease in the indigenous people's education. 154 million, now 74 million. Tama po ba yun? GAA to NEP yun. GAA to NEP.
So the grab. So tapos yung Senate version same as that. So restore tayo to NEP version. Yeah. So we're back to the NEP version, Mr. President.
GAA to NEP.
Nagbalik tayo.
What did we do with the NEP level in the committee report? In-increase natin?
We added 80 million.
So bumalik nga, bumalik.
Bumalik,
That's the,
yes.
okay, so thank
Yes.
you for that clarification. And ito siguro isang good news naman. Was this maintained in the committee report? Implement under support to schools and learners program. Implementation of the grant of cash allowance, hardship pay, and reclassification of positions. Last year, 9.8 billion for this year, 2024, 9.8 billion. For next year, 19.7 billion. Is that correct?
Yes,
So
that's correct.
additional 10 billion.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Kasi ang hirap talaga
Yes.
magpaano eh.
For the teachers ito, sa teachers to pupunta.
Oo, yes.
Sa teachers, yes. Very good. Very good news for our teachers.
And partly is to implement the career progression. So new positions were created. Teacher 4, Teacher 5, Teacher 6. So yun nga. So parang maging exciting naman yung career path nila.
As announced by the President in the SONA. Ayan po. Yun po ba yun ang mangyari ngayon? You can have a career running the school or governing the school, and then you have a career teaching. Ganun po ang mangyayari.
Or both.
Or both.
You can be a principal and still choose to teach, unlike before.
Is it possible?
It's one or the other.
So then before you either run the school or teach. Yun yung before. Now may hybrid tayo that you can be both
If they want.
Okay. So thank you for the clarification. Now I understand it better, Mr. President. Ito pong ating special needs education. Ito ba yung ano? Is this special education? Ito ba yun for the special children?
Yes.
Children with special. So what did we do here, Mr. President? What are the budget levels for this?
Sorry, 1 billion siya. 1 B. 1 B na po siya POC.
Same ba tayo as GAB? 1.04. So we kept it.
12 billion.
Yeah. So to compare, Mr. President, the 2024 GAA is 999 million. And then the net was lower by, it's 843.85 million. But the GAB now that we support is 104 billion. So we increased by about 200
Thank you.
from the NEP.
Thank you. Maganda po yan kasi that's in the implementation of the Inclusive Education Act.
Yes.
Yung for a very long time ang budget natin for textbook and other instructional materials mga 1 billion. Then I think for 2024 ba yung naging 12 billion? For 2023 was it 1 billion? Only 1 billion?
Tama ba yung recollection ko na?
Well, rounding it off 1 billion.
Is it the same? Is it the same?
Okay, okay.
Okay. So what happened in 2023, they were reviewing the curriculum. That's why there was no there was no request for a big budget. And then in 2024, we implemented it. So the budget was 12 billion. And now it's almost the same but slightly higher by about 400 million. 400 million higher, Mr. President.
Sige po. Sige po. I just hope that yung mga problems in the procurement of textbooks na overcome na po ng DepEd kasi alam ko maraming problema diyan eh.
Yes.
May away-away pa ba? Mr. Secretary, nagkakasuhan pa ba yung mga losing bidder versus the winning bidder diyan? Hindi na. Sana hindi na nga. Okay. But ito po feedback lang to sa akin kaninang umaga na ito known to us ang nagreklamo. Mayroon daw silang nagpaparinig daw yung PTA ba nagparinig? PTA school. Ha? Hindi, sino nagparinig sa parent? PTA. Na meron tayong isang magulang na napaparinggan na kailangan mag-donate sa pagpintura ng classroom. So yung parang yung nagsumbong sa amin talagang ang feeling nila pwersa na force hindi. So but ano po natin yan, i-discourage po natin kung pwede, Mr. President.
Yes, the secretary said that these things cannot be compelled. If they want to volunteer, they're welcome, but otherwise, no force, no pressure. Okay, and they even have a DepEd policy memo number 41 reiterating the no collection policy in schools.
So okay, so tsaka paulit-ulit na rin po yata yan. Dapat alam na ng teachers yan, but PTAs are not expected to follow the spirit behind the circular.
Yeah. The teachers know that they should also not be compelling the parents to have to do anything beyond what they want to do.
Yeah.
Pero wala na tayong control sa parents.
Parents to parents.
Oo.
That's the anyway, sige. The teachers are members of PTA. So when they hear the parents saying this, siguro Sige, ano na lang, suggest na lang tayo sa teachers na i-discourage na lang po nila kasi meron po talaga kaming kilala ng office namin na na-pressured. Tinanong ko yung nanay, na-pressure daw talaga sila. Nagbigay ba? Hindi naman. Ha? O, nag-donate nga, sir. Nag-donate. Well, anyway, sir, the Teacher Education Scholarship Program under RA 11713 financially supports aspiring teachers. This law was passed in 2021. Do we have funding for this in the NEP 2025? Teacher Education Scholarship.
Nasa CHED siguro yan. No,
CHED.
nasa CHED, which I also
Yes.
chair. So we can,
Sa
can report to you on that. But I'm
Okay.
pretty sure we have.
Yes, thank you. So sa CHED pala ito. So that would be all for the DepEd for me.
Thank
but
you.
for the other agencies, I still have questions.
For the attached agency.
Yes, for the other
Yes,
attached
go ahead.
agencies. But
Let's proceed.
Secretary will stay. Okay.
Yeah, he will stay. Of course.
The budget for the establishment of the National Child Development Centers will increase by 55 million. Okay, so these are meant to be given to LGUs for them to build the centers. Ito pa ba? 55 million. So
Yes.
the total amount will now be 276.9 million pesos. Tama po ba yan?
Compared to. The 2024 GAA is 315 million. The net for 2025 is 353. The GAB is 375. Of course, iniisa-isa ko to because the highest is our committee report, 394.98.
294.
Yeah, so that is our proposal. It was carried. Yes, so that was carried by the Committee on Finance.
Are the LGU recipients already predetermined?
Yes, we do not
Diana?
recommend if they do not go through the checklist kasi from our experience with all these agencies, babalik lang yan sa atin na hindi pa prepared yung
So,
lupa, may problema pa sa location, etc.
So may listahan na po. Apo.
Yes.
Thank you. Now going to the National Academy of Sports. It has already been 4 years since the National Academy of Sports law was passed, but the NAS System Board of Trustees has yet to comply with the mandate to formulate the policies, guidelines, and criteria to rationalize the establishment, administration, and operation of the sports high schools. Actually, this was one of the issues I quietly raised with Senator Sherwin Gatchalian in the bill on the Baguio City Sports High School. Na wala pa. Is it a fact? Is it a fact that wala pa pong policies, guidelines, and criteria from the National Academy of Sports?
This is for the operation of the
Ano ito? Saan po nanggaling? Saan galing? Based on your performance indicator, saan galing? Wala pa siya. Wala. No.
So right now they are in consultation with the various stakeholders, the different LGUs, the parents, and they hope to have, what do you call it, a first initial policy formulation by first quarter of next year.
Okay. O kasi just so they will know na aabutan na sila because there are now bills on the establishment of sports high schools.
Yeah.
So,
Mga
baka-
inspired ho dahil sa Olympics.
Yes.
We will help in any way we can, and with our secretary who has been an ally in sport. Kasi mahirap ho talaga yung how do I say this properly? Basta I have full confidence in the secretary who is a basketball champion. Hanggang ganun lang sasabihin ko. Kasi kung nakakaintindi ka ng sports, nandyan din yung puso mo to help our young people who choose to use their talent, dedicate their talent to improving their sport and probably even a career in sports. So I'm very confident now with the support also of the Office of the Secretary that we can get this done sooner. Na delay man, I'm sure maayos na natin to, Mr.
Pero
President.
si NSA System Board of Trustees, buo na yan. Buo na
Buo
sila.
ba kayo?
Buo na. Kasi, yeah, buo na. Okay.
Yes,
Thank
buo
you.
na.
So based on the performance indicator of the National Academy of, ano ba na, National Academy of Sports, there should be 2 NSA campus sports facilities certified to international standards. Yun yata yung commitment ninyo way back in the 2023 budget system. But as of the moment, 0 pa rin. There are no...
Certified what?
International certification po. Kasi mag-PCB kasi sana po kaya PCB naman ang sa NCC. These are the world class certificates.
Oh, yeah.
So walang problema. Are you non-compliant? Hindi. Kasi sila pa naman yung facility. Last hour, coming last week. Sino naman sana yung have to so sila sabi nga, targets po nila lang.
Target nyo.
Target kasi hanggang nag-delay yung turnover sa amin. Lang alin.
Kano ito? Magkano itong to?
But you already signed it.
123 million. Hindi, yung... Yung...
So are you compliant?
Sila mismo, wala pa sila mga sila. Ano ba sa Clark? Hindi ko ba international?
So, NAS is located in BCDA, and that I'm going back, Mr. I'm adding to the background here because I'm very familiar with it because I and our former colleague were both sponsors of that bill creating the NAS, and by the time that we were passing it, we already were building or had already built the facilities in New Clark City, which was used in the 2019 Southeast Asian Games. So the easy win, and also to prevent us from having a white elephant there, is for these gifted athletes to be based there and to use the facilities. So they already have access to these world-class facilities. There are no others in the country. Unless we want to budget, which I don't personally recommend, because nandiyan may access na sila. So I think what would be more accurate is i-clarify yung target na yun because they have access. They do not own it, and I don't think they need to own it because they have access to the world-class swimming pool, the world-class track oval, and we're happy to support more. Mas mabuti ho yung ganon if well, that's my opinion, because then you can have elite athletes and events also using the facilities, multi-use facilities, Mr. President, in other words.
Okay, so one thing is clear, the sports facilities being used by the NAS are world-class.
Yes,
okay,
yes,
okay.
that is
That's
clear.
okay, that's clear.
Yes.
Thank God. I got worried. But if that is the case, then that's good news, Mr. President.
Yes, it's great news actually.
And then can we now go to the National Council for Children's Television?
Yes.
What has been the greatest achievement of this agency in the past 3 to 5 years, Mr. President?
Good question.
They already established
At,
standards and they have research and development.
Well, their mandate is to create is it to create or to monitor? To ensure that we have child-friendly content. So in 2019, they launched the child-friendly content standard, and they've had a series of dialogue with content creators. And then they also have research and development in cooperation with FEU and roughly 2,880 children, parents, and teachers combined participated in the data gathering part of the research.
They also have po yung mga documentary.
Okay, so they also have a documentary called DocuBata.
Documentary. Yes.
It's a contest. Okay, it's a contest to encourage content creation. And then they have a Global Media and Information Literacy Week to increase awareness, National Children's Broadcasting Day, and so on and so forth. We can give His Honor a copy.
So, yes, the council is not expected to
Create.
come up with content. It is expected to come up with guidelines that on what are child-friendly content. Yung po ba yun? They are,
Both, Mr. President.
about pati material sila, but okay.
They,
they're-
but really, I don't think we give them enough budget to
yes, the
produce.
budget. Tumingin ako sa budget, 123 million.
exactly.
So, baka sweldo lang po ito? Tama
No,
po.
we have a budget. I
What's the
I don't think we give them enough budget. Yeah, there are grants given to them, but we have, alin dito?
So content. They all, yeah, Hindi nga sinulat nila.
Oh, meron nga tayong budget, okay? It is a grand amount of 3 million. So, hindi naman sila makapag-create ng ganyan, di ba? Yung budget nila for research is also 3 million. They're monitoring, I mean, really, they're monitoring child-friendly compliance, 280,000. So, yeah, we can do better than this for sure.
Sige.
Yeah.
Tulungan
But I
natin
guess,
sila.
but the
siguro.
question also is, I think the research should include, what are children watching? Are they watching TV or are they watching TikTok? What should they be monitoring?
Pero malaking-laki na rin yung 3 million. Sige, tatanungin natin sila. Ano po ang content na nagawa nila sa 3 million pesos? Mapapanood din ba natin sa YouTube to para ma-appreciate din natin?
O, pasample niyo po sa anak
Ganun
niyo.
na lang po. I mean,
O, ganun na lang.
ganun lang po.
Sige.
Paki-inform na lang po ako. So, for the 3 million pesos, ano ang nagawa nating content at saan naman natin makikita yon para
Yes.
ma-appreciate natin?
Yes. We will send it to you
Siguro,
later.
Ang nakita kasi ng aming, yes ma'am, baka sabihin kayo?
For Knowledge Channel?
You made it for knowledge channel.
Nagbigay kayo ng grant. Okay. So yung 3 million, so hindi talaga kayo yun ito-create. You give it as grants, no? That
Grants, okay.
I thought you were saying they receive, they use it pala as grants.
Endowment fund.
Okay. So basically, they've given grants to a couple of, what do I call these?
So they gave the
Creators. So like meron sila sa Knowledge Channel.
So they gave the 3 million away in, okay.
Yes.
Sige po. Pero sige, ano pa rin yung bunga nun? So yun pa rin yung
Yes.
gusto natin makita.
So give us a copy. Yeah. Of the actual. Okay. They'll give us a
Sige, taga na. Tsaka sa research ng staff ko, siguro kaya i-instruct ko yung staff ko na mag-subscribe sila kasi ang YouTube subscribers daw ng council for 3 years ay 382. Okay, tulungan natin. So, instruction na ko yung staff ko na mag-subscribe po tayo sa YouTube channel ng National Council for
Ayan, ilan tayo?
Children's Television. Yan po.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that, Mr. President.
Parang YouTube channel ko po ito. Padamihin natin, po. Tulungan tayo kasi government, this is government.
Yes, yes.
We're funding it, tulungan natin. So,
Actually, dapat. Okay. The secretary will link it to the department's social media channels. They have millions of followers, Mr. President. And I guess no, yung isang network din which is probably not quite covered by DepEd would be nga yung mga daycares. Dapat yan talaga din. Yeah.
And last but not the least, on the National Museum, we were just there last night. So thank you to Mr. Jeremy Barnes for hosting us. Kita natin yung beauty pa rin ng ating mga works of art, and the house itself, no? The house itself, the National Museum. And siguro the good news, di ba? I think Mr. Barnes and the National Museum have been approached by the Louvre in Abu Dhabi to lend some pieces, some works of art to be displayed in the Louvre in Abu Dhabi. Did you know that, Madam Chair?
No.
Oh,
Baka it's your wife who orchestrated that.
I have inside information, so I'm sorry.
Oh, kaya nga, see, sabi ko na eh.
So last night, when I arrived at the National Museum, I immediately asked Mr. Barnes, Jeremy, where is that piece or
Which
work of art?
pieces?
Which piece? One,
Oh,
I think
one,
only,
one
I think we
piece.
will lend one to the Louvre in Abu Dhabi, and he
Wow.
led me to the La Bulakenya. Tama ba, Mr. Barnes? Is that La Bulakenya? So a painting by Juan Luna of a Bulakenya. In ano man tawag doon? Filipiniana attire.
Bagay kami mag-ano eh.
And when will that work of art be displayed in the Louvre? Just in case it pushes through.
By June next year, pag congressman na po kayo.
Ay, ganun po ba? So at any rate, so congratulations to the National Museum, you know, for that achievement. So instead of siguro asking more questions, we end on that high note, Madam Chair. We will end on that high note.
Yes.
A Filipino work of art is desired to be displayed in the Louvre in Abu Dhabi. So
Yes. La Bulakenya.
that's where we will end.
Ang hometown ni Senator Joel.
Yes,
and
Senator
ng
Joel
aking
will be
gandang
proud of
mga ninuno.
So thank you very
Very
much. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Thank you to our
questions.
secretary, and we wish him all the best. One of the most, a difficult job, but I'm sure one of the most satisfying positions in government to be the secretary of the Department of Education. So maraming salamat to the DepEd family. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Majority Leader.
President, last to interpolate would be the chairman of the Senate Committee on Public Information. And I was told is going to focus on the National Council on Children's Television, Senator Robin Hood Padilla. May he be recognized.
Senator Robin Hood Padilla is recognized.
Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo. A'udhu billahi minasyaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Una po, ako ay tagahanga po ng kalihim ng edukasyon. Ako po ay nagpapasalamat kay dating Senador Angara sapagkat napakarami pong niyang itinutulong sa BARM, sa mga Muslim sa panahon nito. Meron lang po akong mga gustong katanungan. Nabanggit po kasi, napakahalaga po nito, yung tungkol po sa National Council for Children's Television. Ito po ay napakalaking kapangyarihan upang mabalanse po natin ang mga matatawag po nating hindi magagandang impluwensya sa mga kabataan ngayon na napapanood po at nakikita sa social media. Gusto ko lang po malaman kung ano po ang plano po nila dito. Meron po bang matibay na plano ang National Council for Children's Television para malabanan po itong mga programang nakakasira sa kabataan?
Dagdag tayo. Wait, is this dagdag? Or is this the first? So, actually, Mr. President, there is an item called Advocacy and Communications Plan on TV Violence Rating Code. We added 500,000 pesos. And then there's also the launching and implementation of TV Violence Rating Code. We added 1 million pesos for this. Because their job is really to to monitor and to create these guidelines. So this is the initial funding. The description here is the TV VRC, this is the violation rating, used in conjunction with the NCCT's child-friendly content standard will play a crucial role in validating the suitability of programs aired on local television, ensuring they align with child protection norms. And then it also includes the facilitating the review and harmonization of existing guidelines by the MTRCB, focusing on the development of standards or codes specifically designed to shield children from violence in television programming.
Opo, yun po. Napakaganda po at binasa po ng ating sponsor. Yun po kasi ang ating ikinakatakot po sa ngayon, hindi naman po kaila sa lahat. Nasa social media po, sobra po ang mga palabas na hindi na po talagang. Ang katunayan nga po, meron pa po tayong nakapending sa floor na patungkol po sa pagpapalakas ng MTRCB dahil nga po dito sa problemang ito. Ang gusto lang po natin malaman kung sapat po ba yung budget na ating naibigay sa kanila para po mas magkaroon po ng ipin. Kasi sa ngayon po parang hindi po natin maramdaman. Baka po sana sa susunod, sa pamamahala po ng aking kaibigan at aking pong hinahangaan, ay magkaroon po ito ng ipin para makakita po tayo na talagang may mga napaparusahan po sa usapin po ng mga programang nakasisira po at masamang impluwensya sa mga bata.
Well, definitely, Mr. President, like a lot of our agencies, pati yung mga attached agencies ng DepEd, talagang nangangailangan pa ng pondo. But in all due respect, we try to do our best. And sa 2024 GAA, 82 million yung budget. Sa GAB, 110 million yung budget. And ang committee report natin is 123 million. So lagi ho nating pinupush na itaasan at suportado naman tayo ng ating Chairman of Committee on Finance because they approved the budget we recommended. But I'd also like to add that Congressman Tof de Venecia has I guess it's a draft bill, no? To broaden the scope of the National Council for Children's Television to make it National Council for Children's Media, which is a big task. It's a Herculean task if you ask me kasi ang dami ng sanga niyan. But I personally think this is a great move in the right direction and pwede natin i-support ito, including the necessary budget to launch it properly.
Opo, napakaganda po nun. Opo. At magkaroon din po talaga uli ng mga programa talaga doon sa mga main networks ngayon natin. Meron po ba tayong karapatan o masasabing tayo po ay malaya na makapagpapalabas ng mga programa ng gobyerno na para sa mga bata dito po sa mga main networks, sa mga malalaking networks? Meron po, pwede po ba yun?
They are required to show 15% of child-friendly, whether it's produced by you or not, di ba? Yeah. So, kasi yung batas po natin, it requires that all the networks show at least 15% of their daily airtime. The requirement is 15% at least of their daily airtime is dedicated to child-friendly shows. So whether it is these are products of grants of the council or it's the own shows of the networks, it doesn't matter as long as it is considered child-friendly.
Opo. May nakamonitor po dito? May nagmo-monitor po kung sumusunod po ang mga main networks po?
Meron. They have a media monitoring section that does that. And as I mentioned, we increase their budget to help them do their job better.
Opo. Pwede pong makahingi po sa aming komite ng mga palabas na ito? Pwede po namin pong makita, masilip po? Kahit
Yes,
hindi po
pwede
ngayon,
po.
sa ibang panahon po.
Pwede po.
Opo. Ang pangalawa na lang pong tanong, hintayin na lang po namin yung ipapadala po ninyo. Pangalawa na lang pong tanong, meron po ba tayo sa ating patungkol sa mental health po ng mga teacher? Meron po bang nakabantay dito sa DepEd, sa mental health po ng mga teacher?
Yeah, of course. Batas na yan eh. Oo.
Na-implement nyo na yung bago. Ay, hindi na to sa NCCT. Sorry, hindi na NCCT. DepEd na. DepEd na. Yeah.
Opo niyo na yung second. Ano yung mga programs natin?
So one is yung ano, di ba we passed the law that changes the, so we can hire more, no? The guidance counselors. We changed the requirement, di ba? We changed the, because we, yeah. Then we do have like guidance, one, yeah, magano.
So one thing we've done, Mr. President, and this is by virtue of the law na siya, right? Pumasalan. It's already a law, right? Mental health. Yeah. One of the things we've done by way of law is we created new positions, which is already being implemented by DepEd for mental health what do you call them? Mental health experts. So no longer specialists, no longer just guidance counselors, because historically, medyo naging, put it bluntly, parang medyo naging dead-end career path yung guidance counselor, because ang taas ng requirement to get hired, you need a master's degree, and then ang baba ng sweldo. So we now have new positions to make it more exciting, and there's a career progression, and the secretary was involved in making that law. So it's also a priority of theirs.
Oh,
Sorry, specifically, are you asking about the wellness of the teachers?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Yes.
then, di ba? So they have online sessions to be able to reach more teachers, no? Kasi kesa magpapunta ng paisa-isang expert, and they cover a variety of mental health topics, and they also have a hotline available to the teachers.
Opo, siguro po gusto ko na lamang pong ibahagi sa ating mahal na kalihim at sa edukasyon. Doon po sa naganap kasing aming exposure nitong huli, kasi kami po ay umikot, magmula po sa Luzon, napunta ng Visayas, napunta ng Mindanao. Marami po kami nakausap ng mga teacher dahil sila po yung nakikipag-coordinate sa amin para mapuntahan po namin yung malalayong lugar. Ang lagi po nilang sinasabi ngayon, sa public school po, nagkaroon po ng parang takot ang mga teacher na disiplinahin ang mga bata na makukulit na katulad ko nung araw. Sapagkat nagkakaroon po ng parang kampanya sa social media na laging ang napapalabas ay nagiging masyado ng ang ating mga teacher ay mahigpit, nagiging sila ay may karahasan na. Sa nangyayari po ngayon sa mga classroom na andyan na yung mga makukulit na mga bata, hindi na lang po pinapansin ng mga teacher, tinitiis na lang niya dahil natatakot po siya na baka po siya ay makasuhan o magkaroon pa ng problema. Yun lang po, gusto ko lamang pong i-share yun, mahal na Pangulo, na meron na pong ganyang klaseng hinaing ang ating mga teacher na sana po ay maging bigyan po ito ng pansin, sapagkat talaga pong takot na po sila na magbigay ng disiplina, sapagkat sa mga nangyari po na hindi po talaga nabigyan sila ng tamang pansin, kung ano po talaga din, kung ano ang dapat nilang gawin sa mga classroom. Siguro po magkaroon po ng alituntunin o mga dapat gawin para po yung ating pong mga teacher ay hindi po magkaroon ng ganitong pagkatakot. Yun lamang po, mahal na tagapangulo, marami pong salamat.
Maraming salamat, Senator Robin Hood Padilla.
Noted po yun, but just a quick response, aware po sila, meron silang positive discipline and socio-emotional learning. And meron din teaching manual on children's rights. So they're on it. Alam niyo naman sa lumang panahon, medyo yung iba dyan, di talaga sila aware. So siguro kailangan talaga pang dagdagan ang kaalaman din ng mga teachers. And of course, mahirap ang trabaho nila kasi sobrang dami ng estudyante minsan that the challenges are really there for them.
Yun lang po yung concern natin. Talaga pong, yun po yung sinabi sa akin. Hindi lang po isa, dalawa, tatlo, ang dami po talaga. Ang sinabi sa akin, hindi na namin alam kung paano namin didisiplinahin ang estudyante namin dahil laging kami ang nababalikan. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
President, there being no other reservation for interpretation.
Mr. President, I still have a manifestation from my brother.
Yes,
Pwede ko naman ibigay na lang kay Secretary, pero baka ma-text ako ng di oras. Kaya I will read the manifestation of Senator Alan Cayetano. I would like to raise a critical matter concerning the budget allocation of DepEd for the Basic Education Facility Program, which plays an important role in the construction, rehabilitation, and improvement of school buildings and facilities in the country. According to UNESCO, physical infrastructure is important because it has a significant impact on children's enrollment, attendance, completion rates, and even learning achievements. While adaptation strategies such as implementing double, triple, or combination shifting allow more children access to school, there are studies which find that said strategies negatively affect educational achievement and learning efficiency of the learners due to shortened instruction time. Research shows that this is merely a patch-up or temporary solution that will not really address the problem of classroom congestion. The country's existing inequalities in education access and learning outcomes are further exacerbated by the effects of climate change. It is noteworthy that the National Expenditure Program was prepared and submitted to Congress during the first half of 2024 before the country faced several disasters, including severe tropical storm Christine and super typhoon Karina, which caused devastating floods and landslides. These hazards leading to disasters have left widespread damage to life and property and have further strained our already vulnerable and limited educational facilities. Despite the urgent need for repair and rehabilitation, the proposed budget of 6,132,800,000 for DepEd's Basic Education Facility Program, specifically for the rehabilitation, renovation, repair, and improvement of kindergarten, elementary, and secondary school buildings under the NEP 2025 was slashed by 2 billion to 4,132,800,000 under the General Appropriations Bill. Curiously, however, the budget for DepEd's Basic Education Facility for the construction, replacement, and completion of kindergarten, elementary, and secondary school buildings and technical vocational laboratories and others jumped from 15 billion under the NEP to 24 billion in the GAB. Curiously, as annex titled Department of Education School Building Program was attached to the GAB, where beneficiary schools were already identified. Given the urgency of rebuilding efforts, maximum utilization and efficiency are needed to expedite the restoration and improvement of our educational facilities. These challenges, compounded by the damage caused by extreme weather events and climate change, call for a firm commitment to rehabilitate and improve our education facilities by restoring the amount slashed from DepEd's budget for the rehabilitation, renovation, repair, and improvement of kindergarten, elementary, and secondary school buildings. So this is the manifestation of Senator Alan Cayetano. As I told the Secretary, actually without having even read his manifestation, that this representation will do our best and hope to at least restore 1 billion. If our colleagues will join me, then let's try to restore the entire 2 billion.
Thank you, Senator Cayetano. Majority Leader.
Again, Mr. President, there being no other interpellators, I move to close the period of interpellation and consider the budgets of the following: the Department of Education in its attached agencies, Office of the Secretary, Early Childhood Care and Development Council, National Book Development Board, National Council for Children's Television, National Museum of the Philippines, Philippine High School for the Arts, National Academy for Sports, deemed submitted for the body's consideration. I so move, Mr. President.
There's a motion by the majority leader to close the period of interpellation and consider submitted the budgets of the Department of Education and its attached agencies. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move for a minute suspension to enable us to have a picture with our favorite basketball player and
Session is
Secretary of
suspended.
Education.
For her interpellation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before we begin, I would like to warmly welcome our NEDA family, headed by Secretary Arsenio Balisacan, who was here since earlier this afternoon. Mr. President, it is also my duty to present to the body the budget of the NEDA and its attached agencies and corporations. Based on the Senate Committee report, NEDA's total agency budget for fiscal year 2025 amounts to 13,307,298,000, composed of 13,024,559 as new appropriations and 282,739 as automatic appropriations. So with this representation is now ready to receive your questions. May we ask the ones
Yes, the OSA is
OSA, please.
directed to restore order in this plenary. Likewise, before we proceed, just like to greet Secretary Balisacan, advance happy birthday tomorrow. So I hope that interpellations will be short so that he can celebrate his birthday with his family tonight.
O, paabutin natin hanggang 12 para sa lubong.
Pwede rin.
Diba? That's the
Senator
best.
Tiberos may now continue with the interpellation.
Salamat, Mr. President. Magandang gabi po, Madam Chair, at sa NEDA family, at advanced happy birthday po kay Sec RC. And in fact, my questions are not for NEDA per se, but for the Philippine Statistics Authority, Madam Chair.
Mr. Mapa. Balik na.
So, Madam Chair, sa hearings po natin kay Guo Huaping, lumabas ang abusong ginagawa sa late registration para makakuha ng pekeng Filipinong citizenship ang mga dayuhang may masamang balak dito. Nag-conduct po ba ng internal audit o investigation ng PSA sa mga pekeng birth certificate na ito, Mr. President?
Update on the birth certificates, Mr. President. 1,627 birth certificates of foreign nationals were blocked by the PSA after its investigation, finding the documents to be spurious. The names of foreign nationals were shared to the BI, DFA, and NBI. But from what I know, out of those numbers, let's see, 18 were endorsed to the OSG for cancellation. And then, so 18 pa lang yun na-endorse for cancellation. Kasama na dito yung kay Goa Ping.
Salamat, Madam Chair. That's a start. Sa isa sa mga naunang hearings natin, sinabi na po ng PSA that they determined na ang birth certificate nakuha through late registration ni Guo Huaping ay irregular. So I suppose now the updated or the official term is spurious. So it's a start. 1,627 birth certificates blocked because deemed spurious, at 18 pati na yung kay Guo Huaping endorsed sa OSG para sa cancellation, para kanila na rin para ma-actionan na rin po ng constitutional body na iyon. At maigi din po na sinishare po itong mga ganitong determination, findings at determination ng PSA sa ibang mga ahensya para ma-facilitate hindi na yung ang tawag nito yung compartmentalization ng intelligence which reached absurd ends dun sa kaso ni Guo Huaping, pero mas ma-facilitate yung pagtutulungan ng iba't iba nating mga law enforcement and intelligence agencies.
Actually, I'd also like to commend our colleague here, the good Senator Lisa Hontiveros, for focusing on this problem that if we didn't really investigate the issue on the POGO, these other problems wouldn't have come to light. Imagine 1,600 na yung nakapag-rehistro na over 18 years old. Wala man lang kaduda-duda. Siguro, dapat din natin ma-follow up anong nangyari dun sa mga civil servants na yun na pumayag na sila ay marehistro.
Actually, Madam Chair, na-anticipate nyo yung susunod kong tanong, follow-up question. Pero bago yung follow-up question na yun, gusto ko ring pasalamatan lahat ng mga colleagues natin na nagtutulong-tulungan para mas gawing tapat sa tamang proseso, requirements at iba pa, yung ating late registration of live birth. Dahil, at ito yung isa pang pahuling tanong ko mamaya-maya, dahil ito ay proseso na kinakailangan din naman nung iba nating mga kababayan na acting in good faith at wala pong masamang balak, mga totoong Pilipino. Kaya lang, kinakasangkapan yung prosesong iyon ng mga di naman totoong Pilipino at may masamang balak nga. So, muli maraming salamat sa marami nating mga kasama dito na nagtulong-tulungan sa prosesong ito ng pag-iimbestiga ng POGO at pati itong usapin ng pagkasangkapan sa late registration of live birth. Marami po sa ating mga kasamahan and syempre special mention sa kay Senator Sherwin, no, Gatchalian. So dun sa na-anticipate nyo ang tanong ko, Madam Chair, paano naman po pananagutin yung mga opisyal na kasabwat sa pamemeke ng birth certificate, Mr. President?
The names have already been forwarded to the mayor of Santa Cruz. But then, okay, so the names of those government workers were submitted to the mayor of that town, but alongside with it, simultaneously, there's also an investigation by the NBI.
Salamat, Madam Chair. And actually, naalala ko po, bukod sa NBI, may iba pang mga importanteng department at ahensya ng ating gobyerno. And if I remember correctly, sa isang kaugnay na hearing, nasabi din po yata ng resource person mula sa DILG na naghihintay sila at naghihingi ng posible mga pag-amyenda din sa local government code para mas magkaroon sila ng mandato, imbestigahan at kung kakailanganin, disiplinahin ang sino mang tiwaling local government officials na sa halip na bantayan ang integridad ng ganitong mga proseso tulad ng late registration of live birth ay nagiging kasabwat pa nga. Dahil kumbaga pinoproteksyonan nila yung mga criminal activities na nabibigyang daan sa ganitong pagkasangkapan ng dapat sagradong birth certificate bilang Pilipino.
Tama. I mean, paano naman tayo? I mean, napakahirap kumuha ng birth certificate, ha? Tapos itong mga ito parang sa isang iglap.
Ganun lang.
Di ba? Ewan ko pa. May mga litrato ba tayo nitong mga nakakuha na to?
Ng mga nakakuha nitong mga peking birth
Oo,
certificate?
Mr. President, meron ba?
Well, I hadn't prepared any for this interpellation, Madam Chair, pero
But
yung
did you
mukha-
have it? Do you have it, Mr.
Di
President?
pa nga eh. may make available po ba ng PSA sa atin sa pamamagitan ng chair, yung 1,627 na iyon?
Okay, so we will ask the Bureau of Immigration. Actually, we're going to have a hearing with the DOJ. We'll ask them to submit to the committee, not naman for presentation, but for FYI, yung mga litrato ng mga, kasi gusto ko malaman kung, di ba, kung talagang gumamit sila ng sound judgment, di ba, sa pagdetermina. Kasi iba-iba naman yung mga itsura din ng Pilipino, di ba? Hindi naman natin
Totoo
masasabi,
po.
but together with the physical appearance is also their knowledge of the culture or also how they speak. I mean, it's not just one category. Lahat yan may mga titignan. Yeah, thank you.
Salamat, Madam Chair, Mr. President. And ito, yung sunod kong tanong, kaugnay nga nung isang pinag-usapan namin, ngayon lang ni Madam Chair. Alam po nating mahalaga ang late registration at kailangan ito ng mga kababayan nating nakatira sa malayong lugar o hirap ang access sa mga opisina ng PSA. Pero ayaw rin naman nating ganun lang kadaling gamitin ito para manloko. So may balak po bang reforma ang PSA para balansehin ang mga interes na ito, Mr. President?
So they issued now a memo circular requiring them to submit an ID picture already together with their biometrics for the national ID.
Salamat, Madam Chair. At sana po sa pag-require ng ganitong mga dagdag na submissions o requirements, pantay pa rin at patuloy isaalang-alang yung minsan hindi ganun kadali tulad ng para sa atin, halimbawa na nakatira dito sa mga syudad, para naman sa mga kababayan natin na totoong Pilipino, tapos dahil sila nga ay nasa mga sa DOHG, the areas geographically isolated and disadvantaged, o kaya mga victim survivors ng sakuna, nawala lahat ng mga ID nila, o di kaya mga katutubong Filipino, yun, sana patuloy pa rin isaalang-alang, i-facilitate po ng PSA na itong mga kababayan nating mas hirap mag-fulfill ng requirements ay makakuha pa rin ng birth certificate na kanilang kailangan.
Actually, Mr. President, I understand also na talaga may mga nangangailangan yan. But to be fair to the PSA, they reviewed using data analytics 14.89 million late registrations submitted from 2010 to 2024. So 14 years. Pero ganun karami yung nag-submit. So tignan na lang natin kung sino talaga dun yung makatotohanan yung impormasyon. 50,532 birth certificates or 0.34% are being audited by PSA personnel. So yun yung medyo siguro kailangan bigyan ng mas masusing atensyon.
It's mathematically parang maliit na porsyento, pero na-appreciate ko po, Madam Chair, yung pagkamasinop ng PSA sa review na ito. Kaya rin siguro sila nakapag-produce sa unang batch ng 1,627 spurious birth certificates na kanilang binlock. Hindi po madali, pambihirang makapag-review ng higit 14 million na mga birth certificates at pagtukoy ng 50,000 sa mga ito. I hope na itong ginagawang sa pamamagitan ng kanilang audit, itong ginagawang audit ng PSA ay magsilbing isang best practice, magandang huwaran din sa iba nating mga ahensya na higpitan talaga yung pagprotekta sa integridad ng mga procedures natin at yung mga naibubungan nitong mga dapat na official at makatotohanang mga dokumento. And I think also, Madam Chair, this voluminous hard work bodes well also dun sa pinapangarap natin across agencies na digitization, no, ng mga government documents at
paggawang electronic ng mas maraming mga proseso natin. At yung pangarap din natin na magkaroon ng consolidated database, yung mga magkakatulad na ahensya para mas madaling mag-cross-check, mag-cross-reference. Tulad nung itinatanong din natin, Madam Chair, nung mga nauunang pagdinig tungkol sa POGO, na bakit may iba't ibang nag-i-issue ng ganito't ganyang dokumento, pero hindi nila ma-cross-check sa isa't isa kung totoo ba itong taong ito na may hawak ng isa o ilang mga ID natin. So pagpupugay po sa PSA, Madam Chair, sa pamamagitan ninyo para sa ganitong napakalaking, no, at maramihang trabahong ito. At may efforts din po ba, Madam Chair, ang PSA para padaliin din yung access sa lahat ng Pilipino, mga totoong Pilipino, para di na ganon kahirap at least ang original registration ng birth certificate, Mr. President. We find that.
Ito is actually very proactive. There are about 1,214,531 individuals verified or having no official birth records in the PSA database as of which 426,035 individuals were registered under BRAP, or 35.1% of the verified no birth record individuals. This accounts for 21.3% of the 2 million target registrants. With this number, the PSA has issued 197,012 certificates of live birth in security paper, or 46.2% of the registered records. So, hinanap sila talaga physically, pinuntahan sila dun sa mga probinsya, dun sa mga barangay nila para madala sila sa civil registrar at matulungan silang mag-register. So this is as of
We recognize Senator Francis.
Just to interject,
Yes, Mr.
the
President.
permission of the two ladies. Ilan po kaya dito ang mga kapatid nating Muslim doon sa tinatrack nila? Because I understand, Mr. President, iba po yung registration process ng ating mga kapatid na Muslim.
Targets to farm very young out of the 8.7. So we are working with the Office of the Presidential Advisor on the visa process para sa Sulu and Mindanao. So pasama.
So, farm alone,
Silang pinakamalaki.
sila yung pinakamalaki na walang registration. So there are about 400,000 of them. So they're working with the local Office of the Peace Process para ma-register sila. Kasi syempre, this is also very sensitive, no, that area.
And I understand, Mr. President,
A lot of them are returnees and their families.
Mr. President, the newly created Sharia courts would be able to address this backlog, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we are working.
They're also working with the Sharia courts to help out with the process.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Salamat, Mr. President, at salamat sa Majority Leader. And muli, Madam Chair, gusto ko ring magpasalamat sa PSA na gaya ng sinabi nyo, hinanap nila yung mga kababayan natin na posibleng at na-verify nilang wala pa ring original registration ng birth certificate hanggang sa ngayon. Baka sa atin, tinitake for granted natin na lalo na kung naipapanganak tayo sa ospital or kahit home-based birth, pero nire-rehistro tayo ng kumadrona na nakakakuha ka agad automatically ng birth certificate. Pero para sa maraming kababayan pala natin, yung 1 milyong nahanap na ng PSA, yung 400,000 dun sa BARM, napakahalagang dokumento talaga at pala ito. Nakikipagtrabaho, halimbawa yung opisina ko ngayon, Madam Chair, sa isang NGO na ang pangalan na Ideals. At talagang, ayan, katrabaho po nila ang PSA. At talagang may pamagat sila sa birth certificate na parang passport sa buhay. Kasi ito po ay dokumento na patunay ng pagkakilanlan sa isang tao bilang mamamayang Pilipino, kaya't may entitlements sa karapatan, sa benepisyo, sa social protections, at pagkakataon sa pag-unlad sa buhay sa bawat mamamayan. So, huli na siguro, Madam Chair, at ito tinatanong ko dahil may natanggap po kasing request for assistance ang opisina ko na isang letra lang ng middle name ang mali ang spelling. Pero hirap na hirap siyang ipakorek ito at talagang apektado ang buhay niya. So, pwede niyo po bang linawin, Madam Chair, ang proseso at requirements sa administrative correction ng birth certificate?
Yung process, it emanates doon sa local civil registrar, doon sa kung saan sa pinanganak. Ang problema usually, Madam Chair, yung malayo. So ngayon, ang ginagawa nila, pag malayo sa Mindanao, but already here nila, the PSA can help you because we will contact our provincial office to facilitate.
So, saan
Sa-
sila pupuntang
Sa,
office?
sa,
So, ganito po yun. Kung kunwari merong problema, it's an administrative matter, obviously. But if they are far from their province, let's say, kasi they have to go to their local civil registrar, they can avail of going to the PSA office in Quezon Avenue, in Quezon City, at tapos sila na makikipag-coordinate doon sa probinsya nila. Sa ibang place sa Luzon. Pero nandun sila sa... Okay, so they can go to any PSA provincial office. So if they're in another town or province or region, they can go to the local PSA to make that correction. Pero ano nga ang tawag doon? Basta lalapit lang sila.
administrative correction process.
Administrative correction process. Anong kailangan nilang gawin? Proof.
Ilang document, ayun. Tuning,
Oo, and-
spelling, let's say school record, baptismal.
Okay.
And then, yun na yung process na.
Okay. So, additional proof of the correct name, baptismal records, maybe school records, employment ID. Kasi kung pareho lang naman ang muka, di ba? Ang medyo weird lang kung lalaki tapos babae yung nagpapalit ng pa.
Marami pong cases yung Madam Chair, spelling,
Oo.
E-I-O-U.
Oo.
So we have already a process.
Okay, normally it's expected, like there are certain letters that are easily misread,
Yeah.
and so it's or even cut. And I have a side story about that, my friend. Anyway, wag na dito. Okay.
Hintayin ko yung side story, Madam Chair, kahit mamaya or sa susunod na araw. Salamat po. And I suppose whatever the circumstances of our citizens, no matter how unfamiliar they may be to us now, inaasahan po natin na yung mga attached agencies ng ating gobyerno ay nag-evolve over time at magiging mas inclusive para kung ano yung entitlements ng mamamayan, halimbawa birth certificate, ay yun na nga po, nag-evolve para maipaabot yung serbisyong iyon dun sa nararapat at may karapatan po doon. So, yun lamang po, Madam Chair. Maraming salamat. Salamat din po sa PSA. At maligayang bati muli kay SEC-RC.
Oh.
Salamat po, Mr. President.
Actually, nagsama yung dalawa si Senator Risa at si Senator Sherwin, na talagang yung pagsisikap ninyo at sa pagtutok ninyo dun sa mga nakaraang investigasyon ay marami talagang pagbabagong naidulot na isang buong industriya na hindi naman nakakabuti sa atin ang nawala na, at pangalawa na nabuhay ang issue or napansin natin itong issue na ginagamit pa lang ating sistema na nagpaparehistro, hindi naman. So maraming salamat, Mr. President, sa inyong dalawa.
Thank you for the compliments. Majority Leader.
President, next to interpolate the Senator Robin Hood Padilla. I move that he be recognized.
Maraming salamat po sa ating pinunong mayorya. Ginoong Pangulo, nais ko lamang pong malaman sa kalihim po ng NEDA kung pareho pa din po ba ang posisyon po ninyo tungkol po sa binitawan po ninyong salita doon po sa pagdinig sa Kongreso tungkol po sa iba't ibang RBH na nagpapanukalang amendahan ang ating konstitusyon. Particular na po ang economic provision nito. Dito po noong February 26, 2024, ang sabi niyo po doon, we must lift restrictions on critical sectors such as public utilities, education, mass media, and advertising so that we can realize their untapped potential and enable them to contribute to the country's economic progress. Yun po ang sinabi ng ating mahal na kalihim. Gusto ko lamang pong madinig, Ginoong Pangulo, kung hanggang ngayon po ba, ito pa rin po ang posisyon ng NEDA?
Anong position? Mr. President, pareho pa rin ang posisyon niya, pero ang nagbago yung sitwasyon natin sapagkat sa kaalaman din ng ating kasama dito, ako po ang unang naglagda at dumepensa kasama ni Senator Drilon dito sa Public Service Act kung saan ay nabuksan ang sektor na dati ay sarado para pwedeng mamuhunan kahit na sino dito, katulad ng sektor ng telecommunications, sektor ng transportasyon, sektor ng power generation, tapos at kung ano-ano pa, nabuksan yan, pati advertisement. Ngayon, Mr. President, pagdating dito sa Public Service Act, ang unang-unang nag-apply dito para makapag-operate, I believe sa National Telecommunications NTC Communication. Application 001 ay ang ano nga to? Yung SpaceX. Okay? Yung SpaceX na yon ni Elon Musk, kaya sila nag-apply, nalaman nga nila na binuksan na natin, ano? So namuhunan na sila dito at narinig natin na sila ang nagko-connect sa mga malalayong mga lugar sa ating bansa na walang internet service. At ang unang matutuwa kayo, Mr. President, si Senator Robin, sapagkat ang naging benepisyaryo dito ay ang Tawi-Tawi at mga ilang lugar sa Mindanao na hindi makapunta sa korte para mag-attend ng hearing. Ang mismong Korte Suprema ay gumawa ng teleconference para maabot ang mga may reklamo doon sa mga iba't ibang lugar sa Mindanao na walang signal dahil meron ng SpaceX, nagkaroon ng signal. So, maraming salamat sa patuloy ninyong pagtutulak dito na mabuksan ang ating ekonomiya at hindi naman kinailangan pang palitan ang konstitusyon para ito ay ating nakamit.
Okay po. Kasi po, mahal na Pangulo, na-aproban po ang batas na napakaganda po ng ating mahal na Senadora Grace po noong 18th Congress. Ito pong binasa ko po ay noong 2024. So ibig sabihin po ba, hindi na po yan ngayon ang posisyon ng NEDA? Hindi na po ba nila ikakapit pa ang direktiba ng mahal na Pangulo na ang sabi po niya ay meet the daunting challenges of the present and prepare us for the uncertainties and complexities of the future. So wala na po ito. Yun po ba?
So ang sinasabi ninyo, Mr. President, ito pala ay nabanggit lang ni Secretary Balisacan itong taon na ito. kung saan napasa na yung batas na yon. Pero yun pa rin ang sinabi niya.
Opo, opo.
O, so,
Ito
natin
po
siya.
ay hearing po ito noong pinag-uusapan po nila sa malaking kapulungan. Yung patungkol po sa ating mga resolution of both houses po. Opo. Ano lang po, mahal na Pangulo, gusto lang po natin madinig kung ito pa din po ba ang posisyon ng NEDA o hindi na po. Yun lamang po. Kung hindi na po, ay okay po. Maraming salamat. Kung yun pa rin po, maraming salamat pa din po.
Okay, I stand corrected. Oo nga pala, yung education and advertising hindi pa kasi kasama pala dun sa Public Service Act. So, yun ang nire-reiterate niya. Pero, magpakatotoo na lang tayo dito, Sen. Robin. Alam naman natin yung mga galaw noon. Siguro si Secretary Balisacan, ayaw na lang kumontra dun sa mga gustong ipagpatuloy yung, ano nga tawag doon, yung People's Initiative at na kailangan palitan yung ano, so hindi na lang kinontra siguro. Pero dapat napaalala rin na napasa na yung PSA. Kaya nga ito ay ating napapakinabangan na ngayon.
Opo. So, ano po ang pwede ko pong iwan, mahal na? Hindi po ba?
Anong official answer ninyo,
Opo.
Secretary Balisacan?
Opo, yun lamang po. Susundin po ba yung direktiba ni Pangulo o hindi na po?
Okay. So his position remains the same, Mr. President. Buksan ang ekonomiya at kung hindi naman kinakailangan na magkaroon ng, kung yung simpleng batas, di ba, na hindi na kailangan halughugin pa lahat ng buong konstitusyon, doon daw siya. Yun na yun, for the record. As of, ano ba ngayon? November 7, 2024. Balikan ninyo to next year.
Maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo.
Thank you, Mr. President, kay Senator Robin Padilla. There are no other questions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Next to interpolate, Mr. President, is the Chairman of the Committee on Ways and Means, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian.
Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, the Chairman of the Committee on Ways and Means, is recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Good sponsor, Mr. President. I'll just continue where Senator Risa left off. And this is on the topic of birth certificates. I think we all agreed that we were surprised with the revelation that there are thousands of fake birth certificates scattered all over the country. It was so glaring and surprising that even one person who was holding a fake birth certificate managed to run for public office and won as mayor. And the sky's the limit for her because with that victory, she can go on to become congressman, governor, and so on. So it is very crucial that we plug all the loopholes as well as all the gaps in attaining birth certificates. And I heard earlier with the answer of the good sponsor that memos and directives were issued in order to plug those loopholes. But aside from that, I truly believe that with the use of technology, we can weed out all of these fake birth certificates and improve the process of application. And that's what I want to focus. Are there any moves from the PSA to use technology to prevent fake birth certificates from happening, to scan and use technology to ascertain that the existing birth certificates are indeed authentic and indeed are only given to people who are qualified to get birth certificates? Meron ba tayong ganun na technology or are we do we have any plans of using those technologies?
Okay. Mr. President, there's a 4-year digitization program with the PSA, wherein they're going to link hospitals, barangays, and local civil registrars with the PSA. Ngayon, for the first year, this is 2024, they were given 136 million in the GAA. The second year, 2025, they're asking for 306 million for the additional, kasi ito na, 87 local civil registrar's office, 174 hospitals, and 87 barangays for the first year. Nasa pilot program na raw. And then the second year, an additional 387 local civil registrars and 477 hospitals and 411 barangays will be included.
For this digitalization.
Wala po yung 2024.
So it's a 4-year digitization program. So ang last is 2027. So every year, continuing appropriation ito.
I understand, good sponsor, that DBM did not allocate the required 306 million.
Correct,
pesos.
this year.
So what will be the adverse impact of not receiving that amount? Because
Well-
we're now in the middle of not only issuing directives to fix the gaps, but now embarking on a digitalization process to completely plug all the loopholes. So with that amount not being allocated, will it again derail the efforts to
It will.
stop this stop the proliferation of fake birth certificates?
It will, Mr. President.
So this is it's important.
It's important. I mean, it's certainly something that can be introduced for an amendment.
Okay. At the proper time, good
Yes.
sponsor will also introduce an amendment because, like what Senator Risa mentioned earlier, it was really we were shocked, no, to see the thousands and thousands of fake birth certificates can easily be issued to people who are not qualified. And with technology, I truly believe that this can be prevented by integrating the different offices that are connected to issuing birth certificates. In terms of, I have another question that came out during the interpellation of Senator Risa. I understand that national ID, correct me if I'm wrong with this process, that at birth, a baby can already get a national ID number. Is that correct, Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. President.
Can national ID be given to fraudulent or to people who are not qualified? The same as what happened with our birth certificates?
Well, obviously, we've learned our lesson, Mr. President. So now, there's actually a biometric process involved.
Biometric authentication.
And a biometric authentication process involved. So, kung sino man talaga yung tao na yun na gumagamit ng pangalan na